Devil fruits in Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 Domineering Practice. Osborn Building, top floor office. Norman Osborn looked at the news report on the computer screen with a gloomy face. Cancel the bounty on the black market, and by the way, shut up the bounty issuer, and don't let him become the evidence of the Osborn group issuing the bounty. Okay, sir. As soon as Norman Osborn finished speaking, the white man standing in front of him answered in a respectful tone. This white man is the new security director of the Osborn group. As for the black man, who wore his suit like a tights, he was assigned to the Osborn group's secret laboratory in the suburbs because he failed to bring Dr. Connors back within the specified time. When Norman Osborn saw the scene of Roger wearing wire armor swinging out of the Hand headquarters building, he knew that this guy in white armor was the one wearing the Spider-Man hood. Put Dr. Connors' matter on hold for now, contact the Hand, and tell them that we are interested in catching this white knight with them. After a few seconds of silence, Norman Osborn spoke again. White Knight is the new codename given to Roger by the news media. Although the wire armor on his body was made with reference to Tony's Mark series iron suit that had not yet been born, in the eyes of others, the wire armor on his body was a set of armor with an extremely obvious modern style. Therefore, these news media gave him the title of White Knight very considerately. Fortunately, these news media did not know what Roger had done, otherwise they would never give him the title of White Knight. It must be said that in terms of giving titles, these news media are much more reliable than S.H.I.E.L.D. Informant. This title does not sound like a good person. White Knight is different. It sounds much more decent. Okay, sir. The white man continued to answer in a respectful tone. When Norman Osborn ordered the security director to contact the Hand, Coulson, who had just taken over the task of finding Roger's trace, was driving his beloved red antique car Laura to Brooklyn. Sitting next to him was Grant Ward, a level 7 agent he had just recruited from another team at S.H.I.E.L.D. Sir, shouldn't we be looking for the informant? Grant Ward, wearing sunglasses, said to Coulson, who was driving. According to his position, he should be the one driving at this time. But Coulson didn't like other people driving Laura, so he could only sit in the co-pilot's seat. This is a missing person bounty that appeared on the black market a few days ago, and the bounty is as high as $1 million. While speaking, Coulson handed a document to Ward, and then continued, if nothing unexpected happens, the guy wearing the Spider-Man mask above is the informant we are looking for. He is the informant? Ward didn't disbelieve Coulson, but he couldn't connect this guy wearing the Spider-Man mask with the informant. He also participated in the attack on the Hand headquarters building this morning. When he came to the 6th floor of the building and saw the samurai swords scattered all over the floor, as well as the miserable dead Miramasa and Salander, he knew that this informant in white armor had extremely good fighting ability. And the man wearing the Spider-Man mask in the document did not look like a fighting master at all. In his opinion, this man wearing the Spider-Man mask was at most a fanatical fan of Spider-Man. Sir, do you have any evidence? Ward asked doubtfully. Experience and intuition, Coulson said with a smile. Okay, we are almost there. When we find the person who posted the bounty, you'll know if my intuition is correct. However, Coulson would never have thought that when he arrived at the address investigated by the intelligence department, what awaited him was a body with a shattered head by a bullet. While S.H.I.E.L.D., Osborn Group, and major news media were trying to find out his true identity, Roger was sweating profusely in his training room practicing armament haki. To be precise, he was testing his armament haki. The first thing to test must be the strength of armament haki. The second thing to test is the amount of his armament haki. The last thing to test is the body parts and range that he can harden with armament haki. Although the system helped him solve the most basic entry problems, if he could not know his armament haki well, he would not be able to use armament haki reasonably in battle. After spending most of the day and exhausting all the haki he now had, he finally figured out these problems. After finishing these tests, he ordered a dinner for 5 people and then lay on the sofa and waited for the delivery boy to arrive silently. In the surprised eyes of the delivery boy, he gave the delivery boy a tip of $20 and took his dinner. Then, he ate all the dinner in half an hour. While waiting for the hacky to recover, he began to practice the door fruit. The ability of the door fruit is actually very simple, which is to turn everything it touches into a door that can be opened. Compared with the string fruit, the difficulty of the door fruit is more than a little lower. Roger can even practice the door fruit while lying on the sofa. He raised his right hand and activated the power of the door fruit, opening a circular door in the air that pushed inward. After pushing the door open, he saw a green space. However, he did not intend to enter the space, but picked up the takeaway package on the table and threw it in. Then, he closed the transparent and illusory circular door. He was not too lazy to throw the garbage into the trash can, but to understand the green space inside the door fruit. At this time tomorrow, he will reopen the air door here to see if the garbage is still inside the door. If it is still there, the door fruit is not just a combat auxiliary fruit. The next day, when he opened his eyes, he first checked the amount of domineering in his body. It was a little different from what he imagined. He originally thought that after a good night's sleep, his domineering should be restored to its best state. But it turned out that his domineering has only recovered less than half of it. It has been almost 12 hours since he ran out of domineering. This means that, if he wants to completely recover his exhausted domineering, it will take at least 1 day. This is still the time estimated, based on his current domineering amount. If the amount of domineering power increases in the future, it might take longer to fully recover. Chapter 52 Partial Camouflage. After thinking for a few seconds, Roger decided to ignore this problem for the time being. He had just obtained armament haki yesterday, and it was far from the time when he needed to care about this. When he had improved his physical fitness to the limit and cultivated his armament haki to a sufficient strength, he would need to consider this problem. Although escaping is shameful, it is very useful. If he guessed correctly, when his physical fitness is further enhanced, the recovery speed of haki will definitely increase. After washing up, he personally cooked a hearty breakfast for himself. Cooking is also a training content of the Time Traveler training class, and it is not an elective course, but a compulsory course. After breakfast, he came to the training room and started the day's training. Boring days always pass very quickly, especially when similar things are repeated all day long. Unknowingly, a week has passed. During this week, Roger first readapted to the string fruit that had been upgraded to LV2. Now he has mastered more than half of the string fruit moves developed by Doflamingo, except for the birdcage, shadow riding line, and the moves after awakening, which he cannot perform now. He can perform the other moves at will. Of course, he did not forget to develop some of his own moves and usage skills. In addition to the string fruit, he did not ignore the newly obtained door fruit and slightly developed the ability of the door fruit. Unlike the fancy string fruit, the door fruit is much more simple. Open the door. Open various doors in various places. When developing the door fruit, Roger used his own body as the target and opened the door. Then, he found a very interesting problem. When he used his own body as the target, such as opening the door on his chest, he developed an alternative storage space. By opening the door on his body, he can regard himself as a mobile storage space. No matter where he is, as long as he opens the door on his body, the space behind the door is always the same. This discovery made him unconsciously recall those girls in the two-dimensional anime who can always take out huge weapons from their short skirts. Putting his hand into his short skirt, he pulled out a huge weapon. This scene is very unscientific, but it is very pleasing to the eye. Although Roger would not wear a short skirt, he could pull out various weapons from his chest or other parts. Very good. This is a devil fruit. This discovery instantly solved the trouble of carrying weapons with him in the future. In addition to opening a door on his body, he also focused on studying how to move quickly through the green space behind the door. Although he could not achieve the effect of flashing or teleporting, it was a terrifying improvement compared to the normal way of moving. For example, he can now open the air door in the living room, and after entering the green space, he only needs 1 second to reach the underground parking lot. Although the green space behind the door also has the concept of distance, the distance inside the door does not follow the laws of physics. opening a door on his body, treating himself as a special storage space, and moving quickly through the air door are his main developments in the Tremor Fruit this week. As for opening a door on a wall or object, there is no problem at all. In addition to the training of the string fruit and the Tremor Fruit, he also spent a lot of energy on the training of armament haki. Although armament haki is the focus of his training, he has not gained much from it. It is basically the same as when he first obtained armament haki, but it has only improved a little bit. In general, his gains this week are not bad. At least compared with a week ago, his strength has improved a lot. After finishing the training for the day, he took a hot bath in the bathroom and then changed into his specially customized red suit, black shirt, red tie, red suit, plus a pair of white rimmed sunglasses that look a bit like flamingos. This is a new image he specially customized for himself, inspired by Doflamingo, whose aesthetics have not yet become non-mainstream. He is going to meet a very important person tonight. After putting on the suit with the service of the puppet, he took a look at himself in the mirror. Then, white silk threads appeared on the skin and hair that were not covered by the clothes. Although he did not master the Shadow Knight line, the ability to create a clone puppet, but in the process of studying Shadow Knight thread, he also studied some very useful tricks. Partial camouflage. When the silk threads appeared on his exposed skin and head, he began his own camouflage. Under his control, his skin color became a little whiter. More importantly, his appearance and hair changed significantly. A few seconds later, he had a completely different face in the mirror. Short blonde hair, and the face of Doflamingo that was exactly the same as his memory. Now, except for the lack of pink cloak and Doflamingo's nearly 3-meter height, he looked no different from Doflamingo. Shadow Knight thread can create a clone doll with the same appearance. He can't use Shadow Knight thread now, but he has mastered the ability to use silk threads for partial camouflage. It's a bit complicated to say, but it's actually similar to what a special agent team that likes to wear rubber masks to perform special missions does. The only difference is that the special agent team uses high-tech rubber masks, and he uses the special silk threads of the thread fruit. It is worth mentioning that when the level of the string fruit was upgraded to LV2, his 5-color thread finally became a 5-color thread with 5 colors. After confirming that there was no problem with his image, he opened the air door in the bedroom. A few seconds later, he came to a block 5 kilometers away. 5 kilometers is the maximum distance that the Tremor Fruit's alternate space can move now. When he came out of the illusory air door, he saw the hand ninjas who had been waiting here for a long time. Young master. After he appeared, more than a dozen hand ninjas present bowed slightly and said in unison, "Let's go." Roger glanced at these hand ninjas casually and got on the black Maybach next to him. This Maybach originally belonged to Bo2, and after he incorporated the hand, this car became his car. Soon, this Maybach drove away from the block under the escort of the vehicles in front and behind. Kingpin. The person Roger was going to see tonight was none other than Kingpin, who was known as the Emperor of the Underworld. P.S. Well, during the new book period, please try not to keep the book in your collection. Keeping the book in your collection during the new book period will easily lead to insufficient follow-up reading data for the new book, and then keep it to death. This is not a joke, this is true. It is difficult to advance to the next round of recommendations if the follow-up reading data is not enough. Without recommendations, there will be no collections. Without collections, there will be no subscriptions. And then, there will be no more. The apprentice knows that there are not many updates now, but if possible, everyone should try to click and take a look every day. If nothing unexpected happens, the future update times will be at 8 AM and 4 PM. Chapter 53 Kingpin. On the second day after S.H.I.E.L.D. launched the attack on the Hand's headquarters building, Kingpin had someone notify the Hand. That's right, not contact, but notification. However, Kingpin didn't know that Alexandra had died, so his notification was passed on to Roger. Roger didn't know about this at first. It wasn't until he went to the Hand's safe house to take away the dragon bones belonging to Alexandra and Bo2 that the Hand's ninja told him the news. At first, he didn't pay attention to Kingpin's plan. Although Kingpin is the biggest gangster boss in New York, or even in the United States, Roger didn't think he had to deal with him. The Hand might have needed to have a good relationship with this underworld emperor in the past, but times have changed. Some of the businesses that were crucial to the Hand in the past were basically things that Roger could give up at will. However, Kingpin's later actions made him change his mind. He ignored Kingpin's first notification. So Kingpin notified the Hand again with a condescending attitude, and he did so by killing the Hand ninjas. Although Roger didn't think much of the Hand was now his power anyway. Being forced to meet in this way, he felt that he had to do something. Manhattan. In a high-end restaurant, Roger, wearing a crimson suit and disguising himself as Doflamingo, sat in this restaurant without any guests, waiting for Kingpin's arrival. He had been waiting here for more than 10 minutes, but Kingpin still didn't come. Is this a show of force for me? Roger smiled with disdain. Then, he said to the 4 hand ninjas standing behind him, kill those 2 waiters. He said it casually as if he was saying that the moonlight was beautiful tonight. Yes, young master. Without any hesitation, the hand ninjas behind him came to the 2 waiters without saying a word, and before they had time to take out their pistols, they chopped off their heads with their samurai swords. Bright red blood flowed on the floor. A strong smell of blood began to permeate the restaurant. This is Kingpin's restaurant. All the waiters in the restaurant are Kingpin's men. You killed 2 of my men to notify me to meet, so I will kill 2 of your men to let you come. 2 for 2. Very fair. Just as he expected, when he asked the ninjas of the Hand to kill the 2 waiters, the tall and strong Kingpin walked into the restaurant surrounded by a group of his men. Are you the new finger of the Hand, Don Quixote Doflamingo? Like Roger, Kingpin was also wearing a neat custom-made suit, but unlike Roger's arrogant dark red, his suit was classic black. Not a new finger, but a new fist. Looking at Kingpin's shiny bald head, Roger answered naturally. Although Kingpin had a creepy oppressive force, Roger was not an ordinary person. Kingpin's aura of suppression had no effect on him. Pressure comes from the wheel. Pressure comes from the gap in strength and power. Roger is not afraid of Kingpin's strength, nor is he afraid of Kingpin's power. So in front of him, Kingpin is not much different from gang leaders like Ronald. It's just that Kingpin can fight a little better and has more subordinates. New fist. Do you have this ability? Kingpin's tone was not harsh, but rather mocking. If you want to know, you can try it. Roger didn't have much experience dealing with gangs before. But there is one thing he is very clear about, that is, facing these guys who believe in violence, humility, and concession will not only not make the other party show mercy, but will make them more aggressive. In simple terms, if he is more fierce than you have to be more fierce than him. If he dares to fight you, you have to dare to fight him to death. Etiquette and rules, for these gangsters, are not as important as toilet paper in the toilet. The bigger the fist, the truth. In fact, it is not only like this between gangs, but also between countries. Caliber is justice, range is truth. The only difference is that gangs don't think too much about the consequences, while countries often think a lot about it. But in the final analysis, whoever has the bigger fist is the boss. Young people are different, especially those who are new to the throne. Boy, you know, even if. Before Jinping finished speaking, Roger interrupted him and said in a flamboyant manner, okay, it's better to say less polite words. I'm afraid you'll be slapped in the face later. Just say it. What do you want to do? As soon as Roger finished speaking, Jinping's men took out their pistols and pointed them at him. Similarly, the Shukai ninjas behind him also drew their samurai swords and confronted him. Although 5 or 6 pistols were pointed at his head, Roger didn't take it to heart. After a week of training, he could already harden his armament haki in an instant. Although his armament haki has not yet reached the point where it can block any attack, it is still a bit naive to want to injure him with a pistol after hardening. Are you really not afraid of death? Jinping asked seriously. Did I not make it clear enough? While speaking, Roger used his right hand to turn the ring that belonged to Alexandra on the little finger of his left hand. Okay, then I won't waste my words with you. The hand is now seriously injured. The official people are looking for you. Your territory has either been banned by the official or swallowed up by other gangs. Become my subordinate. I can solve your troubles and give you everything you want. Jin Yang said his plan in a matter-of-fact tone. When the 5 fingers of the hand were all there, He had the plan to subdue the hand. However, at that time, the loss of forcibly subduing the hand would be relatively large, so he did not do it directly. But now it is different. Whether in the white or black world, the hand will not get any help. More importantly, the hand is now in its weakest state ever. 4 of the 5 fingers supporting the hand have died, and no one knows where the remaining Alexandra has gone. Instead, Roger appeared out of nowhere. Kingpin asked his men to find out about Roger's background, wanting to know where he came from, and even sent someone to Japan, the birthplace of the hand. As a result, no one knew where this Don Quixote Flamingo came from. The only thing that can be confirmed is that more than a week ago, a small gang in Brooklyn had advertised its loyalty to the Don Quixote family. But that small gang has been disbanded, and the gang leader has disappeared. Chapter 54 Allies. If it were an ordinary person, the investigation would have reached a dead end here. But Jin is different. He is the underworld king of New York. Whatever he wants to investigate seriously, he can find out some unknown secrets. Although the small gang has been disbanded, and the boss is missing. But the gangsters who originally belonged to this gang will not disappear out of thin air. After asking his men to visit these gangsters, Jinbing got some very useful information. Before Ronald dismissed them, a young Chinese man had attacked their gang. After this young Chinese man came to the door, Ronald dismissed most of the members of the gang and announced his allegiance to the Don Quixote family. What's more interesting is that before this young Chinese man attacked the gang, Ronald once asked them to find a Chinese boy. After investigating here, Jinbing's men thought that the clues were broken. After all, the gang boss Ronald has disappeared, and no one knows why he sent people to find the Chinese boy. But Jinbing doesn't think so. So, he arranged a large number of manpower and asked his men to visit every gangster in Ronald's gang one by one. In the end, his men found Jason and others who were severely beaten, but had no money to be hospitalized. After personally interrogating Jason and others, Jinbing learned the ins and outs of the matter. Jason and others were beaten by a Chinese boy and robbed of hundreds of dollars. After seeing the missing person reward, they felt that the person in the reward looked like the Chinese boy who beat them, so they told Ronald the news. After Ronald knew about it, he arranged his men to look for the Chinese boy in Chinatown in various districts. Combining all the information in his hands, Jinbing felt that he had grasped the whole truth. Although Roger's current appearance does not look like a Chinese at all, it does not affect Jinbing's judgment. There is nothing to worry about if a disguise can solve the problem. As for whether the Chinese face is a disguise or the current European and American face is a disguise, Jinbing does not care. In short, based on the information collected so far, he can roughly confirm 3 points. First of all, the Don Quixote family does not exist. How could a guy who needs to rob a gangster of hundreds of dollars have a powerful family behind him? Secondly, Don Quixote Flamingo is the guy wearing a Spider-Man mask in the bounty order. Otherwise, this cannot explain why a Chinese boy suddenly hit Ronald's gang. Finally, this Don Quixote Flamingo is the White Knight mentioned in the news. Because only in this way can we explain why the leader of the hand became Don Quixote Flamingo. After confirming these points, Kingpin has the confidence to completely subdue Roger and the hand. A young man with special abilities, but no money and no background. And he also offended SHIELD and the Osborn group. Others may not know who issued the bounty order, but Kingpin knows it clearly. He is the controller behind the New York black market website, and he can certainly find out whether the issuer of the bounty order has any relationship with the Osborn group. More importantly, Roger's 2 actions of robbing Jason and others of their US dollars and becoming the new leader of the hand proved that wealth and power were enough to tempt him. As the largest gangster in the United States, he was confident that he could satisfy Roger's desire for wealth and power. Moreover, he also liked to use this method to subdue those powerful guys. Solve my troubles and give me everything I want. Interesting. But I'm curious, how are you going to solve my troubles? Roger said with a smile. SHIELD and the Osborn group may be difficult for others, but it's not difficult for me. As long as you are my man, I have a way to protect you. King didn't say it clearly, but he knew that Roger could understand what he said. Especially after he mentioned SHIELD and the Osborn group. I see. No wonder you made an appointment to meet at this time. It seems that you have investigated my past a lot. When he agreed to meet Kingpin under the name of Don Quixote, he was prepared for Kingpin to investigate something. Otherwise, he could meet Kingpin under other names. There are two reasons why he did this. The first is to let Jinbing know that he has enough strength. As long as Jinbing investigates his past, Jinbing can connect him with the White Knight mentioned in the news. This strength can ensure that he and Jinbing have a relatively good communication environment and can also lay a good foundation for their subsequent cooperation. The second is to mislead Jinbing. Let Jinbing think that he has a strong enough desire for money and power. A person with such strength that he even wants to rob a few $100s from a gangster, either because he is greedy for money or because he is poor. But in the United States, strength can usually be equated with money. So in Jinbing's view, this is only possible because he is greedy for money. As for the desire for power, conquering the Hand is a good proof. A person who has no desire for power cannot conquer an organization that has offended him. Jinbing is unlikely to know the existence of the system bounty mission, so he will naturally regard Roger's attack on the Hand as revenge. Of course, there are also superheroes in this world who specialize in punishing evil and promoting good. But judging from the image Roger has shown, he will never be a superhero. I'm not interested in being your subordinate. I won't give you the Hand either. The Hand can help you do things. As long as you can afford the price, the Hand can become the sharpest knife in your hand. As for the price, the Hand can give you a preferential ally price. Although Roger said a lot, the main point is actually one. That is, being your subordinate is not possible. Being an ally is okay. This is the result after he thought about it seriously. Although he knew that this result might not satisfy Kingpin, it was the greatest sincerity he could give. Becoming an ally is actually a good thing for both him and Kingpin. Kingpin can use money to drive the Hand to work for him. Although this is completely different from conquering the Hand, it can also be regarded as turning the Hand into his own power. It's nothing more than paying some money. For a gangster emperor like Kingpin, things that can be solved with money are not a big deal. As for Roger, of course there will be gains, not just money. Chapter 55, Coulson's sudden appearance. After becoming an ally with Kingpin, he can get two benefits. First, the Hand can get rid of the current bad situation. The Hand is now like a rat crossing the street. In addition to S.H.I.E.L.D. looking for the Hand, other official agencies, such as the police and the FBI, are also looking for the Hand. Although he has become the new leader of the Hand, he does not have many ways to deal with this kind of attack from the official level. The Hand was able to make the official agencies turn a blind eye in the past because the Hand was not targeted by so many official agencies at that time. And Mrs. Gao and others also have enough connections and relationships to deal with the official troubles encountered by the Hand. However, Roger can't do this. Therefore, he needs someone who can help him solve the troubles that the Hand is facing now. There are not many people who can do this in New York. Kingpin is undoubtedly the most suitable person among them. After becoming an ally, Kingpin can provide some help in this regard. Of course, this help must also come at a price. But in general, this is a completely worthy approach. Second, he can establish his own foundation. He is not interested in being a lone hero, and he doesn't want to do everything himself. The Hand is his first batch of subordinates, but it is far from enough. The Hand is good at killing people, but in other aspects, the Hand can't provide him with much help. Don't look at him jumping around in New York some time ago. But in fact, he is still an ordinary person without any foundation in this world. Let's not talk about his connections, intelligence networks, and channels for purchasing special items. Just for money laundering, his channels are very single. Although the money laundering website Wealth Freedom is a very reputable website, it is the most basic risk management not to put all your eggs in one basket. Although Jinbing is not a good person, you can't help but admit that he is a very powerful person. Especially in a capitalist society like the United States. There are many official agencies that know that Jinbing is the largest gangster boss in the United States, but his underworld empire still exists safely. Needless to say, you know what this means. Force can solve many problems, but for some things, force is not the best solution. Every society has its own rules of operation. Before you have the strength to completely ignore these rules, you must learn how to use these rules to deal with problems. Through Kingpin, he can gradually build up his own network of resources on some special channels. This is not crucial for his future development, but it is also indispensable. Ally? Is this your answer after careful consideration? Kingpin's face became a little serious, and the pressure on people became stronger and stronger. Yes, this is my final answer. Roger answered, neither servile nor arrogant. Good. Very good. What if I say no? Kingpin's tone became cold, as if he was a beast that would bite people at any time. Then I will play with you, no matter how you want to play. As long as you open your mouth, we can start fighting now, and we will never stop until we die. Want to threaten me? Kingpin is indeed the king of the underworld, but in the final analysis, he is just a king of the underworld. Although this world is not the pirate world that he originally wanted to travel through, he is not unfamiliar with Kingpin. Kingpin is meticulous and powerful. More than 90% of his body is muscle. He is a world-class martial arts master. Like the famous Punisher, he has the highest level of human combat power. In addition to his own impressive combat power, he also has a global underworld network, and the manpower and material resources he can mobilize are far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. However, this is not enough to make Roger afraid of him. After looking at Roger with cold eyes for more than 10 seconds, Kingpin spoke again. Alexandra also died in your hands, right? Yes. It is not particularly strange that Kingpin knows that Mrs. Gao and others all died in his hands. With Kingpin's intelligence network, it is not difficult to find out this. They died not unjustly. Your ally proposed, and I agree. Kingpin finally chose to become an ally of the Hand instead of letting the Hand become his subordinates. Although this is not quite the same as his original plan, it is also a good ending. For him, it would be best to subdue the Hand and Roger. If he cannot subdue them, it is not unacceptable to drive them with money. Strictly speaking, the men who work for him now are all for money. Whether they are in the underworld or doing a decent job, in the final analysis, they are all for financial rewards. The only difference between the two is that one is legal and the other is illegal. After establishing a so-called alliance relationship with Kingpin, Roger left the restaurant with the ninjas of the Hand. The next morning, Roger got up early on purpose. Today is a day when Boss Joe is discharged from the hospital, and he needs to go there for both emotional and logical reasons. Just after he finished washing up and went to the garage in his usual casual clothes, he found a red antique car parked next to his 911. There were two men in suits sitting in the car. One was older and had a very high hairline. The other was a little younger and had a strong body. How could they come to the door so soon? The first time he saw the two men, two names came to his mind. Phil Coulson, an 8th level agent of SHIELD, and Grant Ward, an undercover agent of Hydra. He was not surprised that SHIELD could find him, but he did not expect that it was Coulson and Ward who came to his door. Not Captain America, nor Black Widow. Am I so unpresentable? Hello, Mr. Wayne. I'm Agent Coulson of SHIELD. As he spoke, Coulson showed his SHIELD ID. On the first day he came to this world, he knew that the SHIELD in this world was a little different from what he remembered. It appeared too early and was not secretive at all. What's the matter? Roger glanced at Coulson and Ward and answered calmly. While Coulson was talking, he observed the garage and did not find any other SHIELD agents. Since they were not here to fight, he didn't mind giving them a few minutes. It may not be convenient here. Can we go to another place to talk? Coulson pointed to the ordinary people in the garage. Then next time. After saying that, Roger ignored Coulson's retention, started the car, and quickly left the garage. Chapter 56. The Unexpected Gwen. On the way to the hospital, Roger recalled his previous whereabouts. Although his previous whereabouts were relatively secret, it was basically impossible to completely hide it from an agent organization like SHIELD. Especially after he showed his extraordinary strength and certain unstable factors, SHIELD would definitely try their best to investigate his true identity. It was a good result that SHIELD spent a week to lock him. After all, this is New York, one of the cities that SHIELD pays the most attention to. Although his identity was exposed, Roger didn't care too much about this problem. He didn't plan to hide in the dark forever from the beginning, and his identity was exposed. It was nothing more than moving the plan forward. After experiencing the terrible traffic environment in New York again, he came to the hospital, where Boss Joe was. He didn't need to care about the discharge procedures. When he arrived at the ward, Helen and Gwen had already sorted out everything. "Roger, you are here too?" After seeing Roger coming, Boss Joe, who was wearing loose casual clothes, immediately spoke. "I'm free today, Aunt Helen, leave this to me." As he spoke, Roger took the luggage from Helen. When he and Gwen put all the luggage in the trunk, Boss Joe, who was about to sit in the main driver's seat, was driven out by Helen. "I'm ready, I can drive myself," Boss Joe explained. However, in front of Helen, Boss Joe's explanation had no effect at all. In the end, Boss Joe sat in the co-pilot seat. Just as Boss Joe was about to invite Roger and Gwen to get in the car, Gwen spoke first. "Dad, I'll take Roger's car back." "Roger's car?" As soon as Gwen finished speaking, Boss Joe and Helen turned to look at Roger at the same time, with the same puzzled look on their faces. They all knew Roger's financial situation. Although buying a car in America is not a difficult thing, not everyone can own a car of their own. Especially for unemployed vagrants like Roger. "I won a big prize some time ago, so I bought a car," Roger answered with the excuse he had already used once. "Really?" After hearing Roger's explanation, Helen showed a look of enlightenment. But Boss Joe frowned. His police intuition told him that this matter was not that simple. After a few seconds of silence, Boss Joe spoke again. "In that case, Gwen, you can take Roger's car back." "Okay." As soon as Joe finished speaking, Gwen naturally took Roger's hand. Roger didn't expect Gwen to do this to him all of a sudden. In fact, he had no intention of driving to Joe's house, and he didn't expect Gwen to bring up this topic on her own initiative. He was just planning to pick up Joe from the hospital and repay Joe for his previous concern. And then, nothing else. But Gwen's proposal completely ruined his plan. Pulled by Gwen, he walked towards his 911 reluctantly. When they got in the car, Roger glanced at Joe and saw the undisguised suspicion in Joe's eyes. "Well done. It seems that he not only has to deal with the problems of SHIELD today, but also has to solve Joe's doubts." "Drive." Gwen, who was sitting in the passenger seat, said naturally. "Are you doing this on purpose?" Although Gwen's expression was very natural, Roger could tell at a glance that it was intentional. This insight came from the original owner's understanding of Gwen. "Yes, I did it on purpose." While speaking, Gwen waved to Boss Joe, motioning them to go first. When Helen drove Boss Joe's car out of the parking lot, Roger asked again, "Why? Why?" Gwen showed that harmless and gentle expression again, and then said something in the calmest tone that was completely beyond Roger's expectations. "Should I continue to call you Roger, or call you White Knight? Or, do you prefer the name Don Quixote Flamingo?" When Gwen said these words, Roger almost instinctively used the power of the string fruit. Damn. How did she know? Does she know what she is talking about? He was more or less mentally prepared that SHIELD could lock onto him. Although this was a little earlier than he expected, it was not a particularly serious problem. But what he didn't expect was that Gwen also knew this. This is no longer a problem that can be explained by spider sense. He did not answer Gwen's question immediately, but thought frantically. When you eliminate all impossible situations, what remains, no matter how unbelievable, is the fact. This is a famous saying left by a well-known detective. Combining all the information he now knows, Roger came to an answer he had never thought of. "Did you tell Carlson my address?" "Yes, I did." Gwen did not deny it, and answered very straightforwardly. As expected. This is the truth of the matter. On the way to the hospital, Roger was still thinking about how SHIELD locked him. However, now, everything has a reasonable explanation. Because Gwen revealed some information to SHIELD, or in other words, Gwen is a member of SHIELD. "When did you join SHIELD?" Roger continued to ask. 3 months ago. Gwen did not hide it and answered directly. "I see." Roger smiled and shook his head, then started the car and drove towards Boss Joe's house. "Don't you want to ask me why I told SHIELD about your affairs? There is no need for that. Since you said it, you must have your considerations." After hearing Roger's answer, Gwen frowned. After a silence of more than 10 seconds, she continued, because you have changed, you have become strange and scary to me. Although you used to have some temper, you would never solve problems with violence. But now, Gwen did not continue to say, people will change. There is nothing strange about it. Gwen felt that he had changed, which was normal. If he hadn't changed, that would be abnormal. Although his disguise was pretty good, he was not the original owner of the identity after all, and his way of thinking and behavior could not be consistent with the original owner of the identity. No, this is very important. If you were still the ordinary person you were before, it wouldn't matter even if you changed. But you now have extraordinary powers, and any decision you make may bring harm to others. So, I'm sorry. After Gwen said sorry with full of apology, Roger parked the car on the side of the road and laughed. P.S. Today's second chapter will be published later, at 10 o'clock in the evening. The apprentice has not been at home these days, and all the manuscripts posted are saved, but the number of saved manuscripts is not that large, so. In addition, thanks to the little monster Zed and Yamming for the reward. Thank you for your support. Chapter 57 Identity Exposed. For some reason, after hearing Roger's laughter, Gwen, who felt that she had done nothing wrong, suddenly felt an instinctive palpitation. Get out of the car. Just as Gwen was about to say something, Roger said to her in a calm tone, get out of the car? Yes, get out of the car. Now, immediately, get out of the car. Roger repeated it again, his tone calm and even a little weird. Why? If Gwen had not completely reacted when Roger suddenly laughed just now, then now, she could be 100% sure that Roger was angry. Why? Do you think it is a wise thing for you to tell S.H.I.E.L.D. about me? Do you think it is for my good? Do you think it is a good thing for everyone? Roger asked back with a smile. Without waiting for Gwen to reply, he continued, you should be glad that your last name is Stacy. I'll tell you one last time, get out of the car now. Unless you want me to drive you out myself. Looking at Roger, who seemed to have completely changed, Gwen wanted to say something else, but in the end she said nothing. When Gwen got out of the car, Roger started the car again without any hesitation, turned around and disappeared at the end of the street. There is never a shortage of self-righteous people in the world. He originally had a good impression of Gwen. Whether it was the memory left by the original owner of the identity or the judgment he made after contacting her, he thought Gwen was a good person. But the facts proved that he thought too much. From the current situation, Gwen is no different from those guys in S.H.I.E.L.D. Whether it is Gwen or S.H.I.E.L.D., they will never think that there is anything wrong with their actions. In their concept, as long as they think it is right, they can do it with peace of mind. The attitude that everything they do is for the safety of the people and world peace is disgusting to think about. Before crossing, Roger hated these saintly bitches the most. He was afraid that smoking next to these saintly bitches would burn a few relics. His mood today was pretty good, but now all his good moods were ruined by S.H.I.E.L.D. and Gwen. After driving Gwen out of the car, he drove directly back to the underground parking lot of Forest Hills building. It was unknown whether Carlson had received the message in advance or had been staying in the parking lot. As soon as Roger parked his car, he saw Carlson and Ward walking towards him. Get out of the way. I don't want to deal with anyone from S.H.I.E.L.D. today. Looking at Roger with an impatient expression, Carlson thought for a few seconds, then made way and watched Roger enter the elevator. Sir, are you just going to let him go? His address has been exposed. He may abandon this place at any time, Ward said to Carlson after the elevator door closed. On the surface, there was nothing wrong with Ward's inquiry, but in fact, he wished that S.H.I.E.L.D. and Roger would fight each other completely. When he accompanied Carlson to find Roger's trace, he received instructions from his superiors to let Roger and S.H.I.E.L.D. have a conflict as much as possible. It doesn't matter. His true identity has been exposed. Carlson glanced at Ward and went straight back to his beloved car Laura. After returning home, Roger packed up some of his personal belongings and took out the dragon bone hidden in the living room space door. Then, he opened a space door on his body and put the items in. In addition to sorting out the things he needed to take away, he turned on the computer, logged into his bank account, and transferred all the remaining hundreds of thousands of dollars in it to Boss Joe. His identity has been exposed. Whether it is his mobile phone number or bank account, if nothing unexpected happens, they have been monitored by SHIELD. Fortunately, he did not transfer the savings of Miramasa and Alexandra to his account before, otherwise, he would have lost more than hundreds of thousands of dollars. Strictly speaking, this is not a loss, but a return to Boss Joe. Although Gwen's behavior made him very dissatisfied, it was not without any benefits. At least from today on, he did not have to continue to pretend to be the original owner of the identity. After transferring the money, he used silk thread to cut the computer into a completely unrecoverable state. Then, he crushed his mobile phone and threw the photo of the original owner and Gwen into the trash can. After doing all this, he opened the space door and left the residence, where he had lived for more than 2 weeks. His current space door can only move a maximum range of 5 kilometers. But this was not a big problem for him. Since one time was not enough, he would just come a few more times. He did not believe that SHIELD could still lock his specific location through the space gate. After using the space gate to move several times, he came to a secret safe house of the Hand. The Hand had established several secret safe houses in New York a long time ago. This was a backup plan prepared by the Hand for some extreme situations. But unfortunately, the 5 fingers that built these safe houses did not use this backup plan, but it benefited Roger. When SHIELD and other agencies were searching for the Hand ninjas everywhere, those ninjas hid in these safe houses and avoided the search again and again. When he walked out of the space gate, the Hand ninjas hidden in the safe house came to him one after another, knelt on one knee, and greeted him in unison. "Let Jai come to the office to find me." After that, Roger walked towards the office on the 3rd floor. This safe house is a 3-story single-family villa. From the outside, this villa is no different from other villas. But in fact, the villa has been transformed into a fortress by the Hand. Not long after, Roger, who was sitting in the office chair, saw Jai in a black suit. He still didn't know what Jai's real name was. But this was not important. What was important was that after he delegated power to Jai showed good management ability. When he was not in the Hand, Jai was the one who managed the Hand on his behalf. "Young master." Just as Jai was about to kneel on one knee, Roger stopped him and said directly, "Contact Jinbing's people and tell them that I have something to talk to Jinbing face to face. The location is decided by him, but the time should be as soon as possible, preferably tonight." "Okay, young master." Although Jai didn't know what Roger was going to talk to Jinbing about, he didn't ask any questions that he shouldn't ask and respectfully left the office. When Jai left the office, Roger sighed helplessly. When he proposed to Jinbing to become an ally, he never thought that he would need Jinbing's power so soon. Chapter 58 New Identity. More than 10 minutes later, the serious Jai returned to the office and said with an impeccable and respectful attitude, "Young master, Kingpin has agreed to meet you. Kingpin will be waiting for you at the restaurant last night at 10 o'clock tonight. Well done, go down." Roger was not surprised that Kingpin agreed to meet him. After all, they are now in the honeymoon period of their cooperation. At this time, Kingpin is unlikely to refuse his meeting. When Jai left, Roger opened the space door on his body and took out all the dragon bones hidden in the space door. Then, he opened another space door on the wall of the office and put the dragon bones in. After dealing with the dragon bones, he took out other items one by one, including the doll that he had been using very well. At 9 o'clock in the evening, Roger, wearing a red suit again, sat in a black Maybach and went to Manhattan. This time, he did not disguise himself as Doflamingo. SHIELD already knew his true identity, and it would not be long before Kingpin would know the same. Not only did he not disguise himself, but even Jai and others who went to the restaurant with him also changed into black suits that looked like bodyguards. Roger had no complaints about ninja suits. In fact, he quite liked them, especially when female ninjas put on close-fitting ninja suits. Letting Jai and others change into suits was, on the one hand, to avoid unnecessary trouble, and on the other hand, to send a signal to the outside world. That is, the Hand he led was different from the Hand led by Madame Gao and others. Although this was only a small change, it was enough to let those who paid attention to the Hand and the organization understand something. In short, new personnel and new atmosphere. There was no trouble on the way to the restaurant. Neither agents from S.H.I.E.L.D. nor other law enforcement agencies appeared. When Roger brought Jai and others to the restaurant, Kingpin, who was sturdy and looked like a normal person, was already sitting in the same seat as last night waiting for his arrival. After seeing Roger, who looked completely different, Kingpin did not show any surprise. "What do you want from me?" King asked straight to the point without any nonsense. "I want an identity that can be shown in public." Roger sat opposite Kingpin and said naturally, "When I first received this news today, I thought my men had made a mistake. Now it seems that your identity is indeed known by S.H.I.E.L.D. Kingpin took a puff of the Cuban cigar in his hand and said with a smile, "This is not surprising. After all, they are S.H.I.E.L.D. Just as Roger guessed, Kingpin really knew that his identity was exposed. And judging from the time, Kingpin's intelligence network is much more powerful than he imagined. Then should I continue to call you Doflamingo, or call you Roger, or Wayne? It's alright. If you like, you can call me Superman." Roger made a little joke with Kingpin. "Since you were Doflamingo when we first met, I will continue to call you Doflamingo from now on. It's not difficult to help you get a public identity, but I want to know, what can you give me in return? Allies are not relatives and friends, you should understand." Although Roger didn't say it very directly, Kingpin could understand what he meant. In the current situation, what Roger wanted was an identity that could be put on the table without being disturbed by the authorities. This kind of thing is not a difficult thing for Kingpin. After all, he is like this, combining the identities of a gangster emperor and a business tycoon in one. "I heard that your business in Hell's Kitchen has encountered some minor troubles recently. If you don't mind, I can help you solve this small problem." Although Roger lived like a homeboy last week, it didn't mean that he knew nothing about the outside world. Through the fragmented intelligence network of the hand that was hit, and some intelligence he got on the black market, he knew that Kingpin had not been doing well recently. To be precise, it was very bad. Because of Kingpin's business in Hell's Kitchen, he was targeted by a vigilante named Daredevil. Kingpin is still working hard to investigate Daredevil's identity, wanting to get rid of this street vigilante who has repeatedly destroyed his business. But unfortunately, his men did not help him fulfill his wish. Others may not know Daredevil's true identity, but Roger knows it clearly. Not only does he know Daredevil's true identity, he also knows Daredevil's background and abilities. "Can you deal with this guy?" Kingpin frowned and asked. "I dare not say that I can solve it completely, but at least I can guarantee that he will not cause you any trouble within a year." Looking at Roger's extremely confident look, Kingpin was silent. After thinking for more than 10 seconds, he spoke again. "No problem, I can give you the identity you want, but I hope you can fulfill your promise. After all, this is our first cooperation." At the end, Kingpin's tone was already vaguely threatening. "Don't worry, I never break my promise." After reaching a cooperation with Kingpin, Roger left the restaurant with Jai and others and began to return to the villa. "Jai, I'll give you a new task. After you go back, collect the lawyers who have served the organization before. I will meet them tomorrow." On the way back to the villa, Roger said to Jai, who was sitting in the co-pilot seat, "Okay, young master." Jai would not have any doubts about Roger's orders. Although he didn't know what Roger wanted to do, as long as it was an order from Roger, he would do everything he could to complete it. Jai was not the only one who had this idea. Those hand ninjas who recognized Roger's new leader status were basically the same. After all, those who did not recognize his leader status had been killed by Jai. This was also the main reason why Roger considered taking the hand for himself. The next morning, he received a list of lawyers compiled by Jai. In the afternoon, he met these lawyers who did not have a good reputation, but were absolutely professional in the restaurant he had booked. "Perhaps you don't know me very well yet, so let me introduce myself first. My name is Roger D. Wayne, and I'm currently the new leader of the Hand. You've all dealt with the organization before, so I won't waste any more time. I have only one purpose in calling you all here today, and that is to hope that you can use your expertise to help the Hand sue SHIELD for violent law enforcement. PS. I solemnly recommend an American comic novel with very reliable quality and updates. Injustice Superman starts from Marvel. It has more than 500,000 words, so it's already fat and worth buying. If you like American comics, don't miss it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 59 Prosecution. Sue Shield for violent law enforcement. When Roger finished speaking, not only the three lawyers sitting opposite him were stunned, but even Jai standing next to him also showed a puzzled look. 10 seconds later, the fat lawyer sitting in the middle, who had little hair left, slowly said, "Mr. Wayne, are you kidding? Do I look like I'm kidding now?" Roger certainly knew that his proposal sounded unreliable, but he seriously thought about its feasibility. From a legal perspective, it is not impossible to sue Shield for violent law enforcement. In order to get Captain America's shield back from the Hand, Shield deliberately disclosed some of the Hand's past actions, making the entire action look legitimate enough. However, this is only superficial legitimacy. In addition to the fact that Captain America's shield is indeed in the hands of the Hand, Shield does not have any other evidence of the Hand's crimes. The Hand did violate many laws in the past, but Madame Gao and others are not idiots, and they cannot leave any particularly obvious evidence. Even if the Hand really left some evidence, Roger believes that Madame Gao and others have already handled it properly. This can be seen from the fact that the Hand has never been hit by the police and other official agencies. Although Roger does not know how Madame Gao and others deal with these problems, if nothing unexpected happens, it is basically the old methods of bribery and bribery. More importantly, SHIELD does not have a single witness. Madame Gao and others are dead, and the ninjas of the Hand have turned into ashes after their death due to the effect of the secret method. Of course, SHIELD can also start with physical evidence and the officials bribed by the Hand. However, this is not an easy task, unless SHIELD wants to fight corruption in New York. Otherwise, those officials who have taken benefits from the Hand will definitely find a way to protect the Hand within their power. After all, protecting the Hand is protecting themselves. Mr. Wayne, the other party is SHIELD. If you do this, you may. The fat lawyer did not continue, but his meaning was very clear. That is, if Roger insists on suing SHIELD, then SHIELD will never let him go easily. The fat lawyer and others had worked with the Hand before. To some extent, they understood the existence of the Hand better than the police and SHIELD. After all, they helped to handle some of the Hand's previous cases. However, this does not mean that they are willing to help Roger sue SHIELD. The situation that the Hand is facing now can be seen by anyone with a discerning eye. This is my problem. You don't have to worry about it. What you have to do is to use your professional ability to sue SHIELD for violent law enforcement. And I don't ask you to win the case, as long as you sue SHIELD. As for the reward, I will give you 3 times what you could get before. If the fat lawyer and others were still a little hesitant before, then after hearing the 2 points of not requiring victory and 3 times the reward, they began to be tempted. Suing SHIELD, especially helping the Hand sue SHIELD, will certainly have some reputational impact on them. But they don't have much of a good reputation, otherwise, they would not have served the Hand before. Some people become lawyers to pursue fairness and justice. But the fat lawyer and others are obviously not pursuing these. As long as the reward is enough, let alone helping the Hand to sue Shield, even if they become the legal advisor of Hydra, they will not hesitate at all. The world of children is about conscience, while the world of adults only cares about interests. It is the unshakable responsibility of us lawyers to pursue legal justice for the parties. The fat lawyer said righteously. Very good, then I look forward to your performance. Regarding the information, Jai will cooperate with you. I wish in advance that we can all get what we want. After saying that, Roger raised the red wine glass in front of him, gestured to the fat lawyer and others, and then took a sip of the red wine in the glass that was as red as blood. When the fat lawyer and others left the restaurant, he slowly said to Jai, "Find someone to watch these 3 guys. If there is anything unusual, go visit them and their families. In addition, Find some media willing to cooperate and let them publicize it. Finally, help me get a press conference. The time is set for 3 days, and it's time for the Hand to end its days of hiding from place to place. Since S.H.I.E.L.D. already knows his true identity, there is no need for him to continue hiding in the dark. When the identity is not exposed, there are ways to play without exposing the identity. After the identity is exposed, of course, there are also ways to play in an above-board manner. Jai and the fat lawyer and others are very efficient. The next morning, Roger saw the news report on TV that the Hand sued S.H.I.E.L.D. Of course, it was not the killer group Hand that sued S.H.I.E.L.D., but a legitimate company from Japan, Hand Co. Limited. Hand Co. Limited is the legal identity of the Hand in public, and it also does some legal foreign trade business. Take the headquarters building of the Hand for example. That is an asset under the name of Hand Co. Limited. This kind of legal identity in public is useless in normal times. People will not regard the Hand as a legitimate organization just because the Hand has a name of Hand Co. Limited. But at certain times, such as when suing S.H.I.E.L.D., this identity is very useful. What surprised Roger even more was that in addition to suing S.H.I.E.L.D. for violent law enforcement, the fat lawyer and others also sued S.H.I.E.L.D. for illegally occupying the legal property of the Hand. Of course, the legal property here is the truly legal property that has been taxed and has ownership. Just as Roger was watching these news reports in the office, Jai came to the office and handed him a document. "Young master, this is what Kingpin sent over." After taking the document from Jai, Roger glanced at it casually. This is a partnership contract of a subsidiary of Fisk Group. As long as he signs his name, the contract will automatically take effect. After reading the contract, Roger nodded with satisfaction. It doesn't matter what this company is. What matters is that this company is a company of Fisk Group. This means that when he encounters some official investigations, Kingpin has a reasonable reason to use the power of Fisk Group to solve the problem for him. This contract will not bring him any economic benefits, but it can give him a legal identity that is not disturbed by S.H.I.E.L.D. and other official agencies. P.S. Thank you Dlfjxts and Marksuyan for the reward. Thank you for your support. Starting today, there will be 3 chapters, 1 chapter each in the morning, afternoon, and evening. Chapter 60 Physical Strengthening. Jai, arrange some people to keep an eye on Hell's Kitchen. If you find Daredevil, notify me immediately. Kingpin has shown his sincerity, and Roger must fulfill his promise. With Kingpin's Fisk Group at the forefront, he doesn't have to worry about being in trouble with S.H.I.E.L.D. and other official agencies for a long time. This is very helpful for him who is accumulating strength. When Jai left the office, Roger came to the wall where the dragon bones were hidden, opened the space door, and took out a part of the dragon bones from it. Compared with the bones of other animals, the dragon bones look no different. Only by mastering the correct method can the dragon bones play a real effect. And Roger just mastered the correct method of using the dragon bones. Speaking of this, I have to thank Alexandra for her friendly provision. After taking out a part of the dragon bones from the space door, Roger began to activate the energy in the dragon bones according to the secret method explained by Alexandra. As the skeleton left by the legendary dragon, the dragon bones seemed to have an unknown energy hidden under their ordinary appearance. Roger was not interested in understanding what the energy in the dragon bones was. He only cared whether the dragon bones could be as effective as he imagined. There were 2 secret methods of using dragon bones that Alexandra told him. One was the one that Alexandra and her friends often used, which was to use the energy in the dragon bones to extend their lifespan. This was also the reason why they could survive for hundreds of years. As for the second secret method, Alexandra and her friends used it less. That was to use the energy in the dragon bones to strengthen their own physique. Although the physical enhancement can also lead to an increase in lifespan, humans are not an immortal race after all. Simply strengthening the body cannot bring a long life. Therefore, Alexandra and her friends only slightly strengthened their own physiques and used most of the dragon bones to extend their own lifespans. Unlike Alexandra and her friends, Roger's focus was just the opposite. He was not interested in significantly extending his lifespan. What he was interested in now was the Dragon Bone's enhancement of his own physique. Through the secret method provided by Alexandra, which was not known to be from Kunlun, or developed by them themselves, the Dragon Bones in Roger's hands weathered at a speed visible to the naked eye. In a few seconds, the Dragon Bone in his hand turned into powder. Finally, it completely disappeared. As the Dragon Bone disappeared, an energy that was imperceptible to the naked eye slowly flowed into Roger's body and began to strengthen his body. The strengthening of the body by this energy was completely uncontrollable. Roger had no way to control the fixed parts of these energies to strengthen, and could only silently feel this energy flowing through his body like a heat flow. When the heat flow in his body disappeared, he opened his eyes and looked at the wall clock. 15 minutes. The Dragon Bone strengthened his body for a full 15 minutes. Although he couldn't accurately measure how much his body was strengthened, he could clearly feel the improvement of his physical fitness. It was worthy of being a Dragon Bone. The strengthening effect was a little better than he imagined. More importantly, after he completed the first Dragon Bone strengthening, he found that the periodization of his body had significantly improved. The reason why he was so sure was because he was hungry again. It was only more than an hour since he finished the breakfast for 5 people. According to his previous consumption, he would not feel hungry again until at least noon. After dealing with the ninjas in the villa and preparing a breakfast for 5 people, he began his routine training of fruit ability and armed color domineering. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 3 days, Roger used secret methods to strengthen his physique every day. With the help of Dragon Bones, his physique improved at a speed visible to the naked eye. And the strengthening of his physique also led to the improvement of fruit ability and domineering. When the time came to 11 o'clock in the morning, Roger, who changed into a formal black suit, sat in the Maybach and went to the press conference. Going to the press conference with him, there were more than a dozen hand ninjas dressed like company white-collar workers. The venue of the press conference was arranged in a conference hall of a hotel. These things were handled by Jai, and judging from the results, Jai handled it very well. When Roger brought Jai and others to the hotel conference hall, he saw dozens of reporters representing different media. Among these reporters, he even saw reporters from several news channels. Although it was not a live broadcast, it was better than having only paper media present. When he stepped onto the podium, the carefully prepared press conference officially began. His current identity as the new president of Hand & Co Limited. At the same time, he also revealed to these media that he is a partner of a company under the Fix Group. Whether it is Hand & Co Limited or Fix Group, the reporters present will not be unfamiliar. When S.H.I.E.L.D. launched an attack on the headquarters building of the Hand & Co Limited, the name of Hand & Co Limited had already been dug out by these news media. Especially after Hand & Co Limited launched a lawsuit against S.H.I.E.L.D.'s violent law enforcement, the name of Hand & Co Limited has become a well-known name. Because they had already made preparations, the press conference went unusually smoothly. Whether it was the explanation of his new identity as the president, the accusation against S.H.I.E.L.D., or the suspected illegal acts of the Hand & Co Limited before, he answered without leaking a drop of water. It's not only politicians who can play with eloquence. As a qualified time traveler, Roger is also good at sophistry and sensational speeches. In short, he focused on 3 key points in this press conference. First, the Hand & Co Limited is a legal and philanthropic multinational company. The amount of charitable donations has reached nearly $100 million. Second, S.H.I.E.L.D. launched an action against the Hand & Co Limited without any evidence, which is not only illegal, but also seriously violates the freedom and human rights of the employees of the Hand & Co Limited. The employees he refers to here are of course not those hand ninjas who have turned to ashes, but those ordinary employees who serve the Hand & Co Limited. There are ordinary people in the killer organization. Although these people are not core members of the organization, to some extent, they are also members of the Hand. When S.H.I.E.L.D. attacked the peripheral organizations of the Hand, it basically caught all these peripheral personnel. Third, he asked S.H.I.E.L.D. to return the legal property of the Hand & Co Limited. Here, he quoted the 4th Amendment to the US Constitution, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and the Fifth Amendment, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. He was originally going to say the sanctity of private property shall not be violated, but after careful consideration, he decided to use more professional citations. He had to do the whole act. Since he was going to play a person who pursued legal justice, it would be more professional to use legal provisions. Chapter 61 Whitewashing Plan. This press conference ended smoothly with everyone satisfied. Roger used the press conference to establish the first step of whitewashing for the Hand, and the reporters on the scene also obtained eye-catching first-hand information. These reporters wanted news that could attract people's attention, so Roger gave them the news. As for whether this news was the truth of the matter, these reporters did not care. After the press conference, Roger returned to the villa with Jai and others, and started his second step plan at the same time. Suing S.H.I.E.L.D. and holding a press conference are just the first steps of the plan, and the purpose is just to make the whitewashing work of the Hand have a good start. Since the first step has been successfully executed, then of course it is the second step of the plan. Compared with the first step, the second step of the plan is much simpler. Simply put, it is to buy water army, issue press releases, and manipulate public opinion. This is also the forte of American politicians. However, he did not learn it from American politicians, but from the data workers in the fan circle of the flower-growing family. Before the press conference, Roger had already asked Jai to prepare the water army on the surface. If nothing unexpected happens, those media outlets that are willing to take money will publish reports on the whitewashing of the Hand starting tomorrow. Of course, these media outlets are just water armies used as targets. If he wants the situation to develop in the direction he planned, these few media outlets alone are far from enough. In order to completely oppose public opinion, he found several black market merchants who specialize in grey production in the black market. After the content of the press conference is published in the newspaper, these black market merchants will carry out large-scale water army activities such as controlling comments, posting, and brushing topics on the internet. This is no longer the era of paper media. The internet is the key position for manipulating public opinion. Although the internet era has greatly promoted the spread of information, it has also brought an unavoidable shackle. That is, what appears in front of you may not be the truth of the matter. 3 people make a tiger, which has been brought to the extreme in the internet era. Roger does not expect these water armies to completely guide people's ideas, but even if only 1/5 or even 1/10 of people choose to believe, it can bring huge public opinion advantages to the Hand. As long as this public opinion advantage is established, even if the Hand's prosecution of S.H.I.E.L.D. fails, S.H.I.E.L.D. can suffer a certain credibility crisis. More importantly, no matter what the final verdict is, the Hand can completely get rid of the situation of being hunted. If S.H.I.E.L.D. wins, in order to avoid another public opinion crisis, S.H.I.E.L.D. can only deal with the Hand according to normal procedures. In this way, things will return to the original issue of evidence. Of course, in addition to collecting evidence, S.H.I.E.L.D. may also use other official means to deal with the Hand. But if S.H.I.E.L.D. really does it, Kingpin's Fisk group should play a role. If S.H.I.E.L.D. loses, then things will be even simpler. In short, S.H.I.E.L.D. may make a small profit, but he will definitely not lose. The troubles on S.H.I.E.L.D.'s side can come to an end for the time being. Then the only things he has to do next are Daredevil and the bounty mission. The matter of Daredevil is relatively easy to solve. He has sent the people of the Hand to wait in the Hell's Kitchen. It would be best if Daredevil could take the initiative to jump out. If he is unwilling to come out, then he can only let the people of the Hand find the blind lawyer named Matt. Knowing the true identity of Daredevil, he was not worried about this problem at all. The reason why he did not let the people of the Hand go directly to Matt was very simple. That was to make Kingpin feel that his reward was valuable. If he solved Daredevil on the first day, Kingpin would definitely think that his reward was too cheap. Whether a thing is valuable or not, in addition to whether the thing itself is important, the process of solving the thing is also very important. Things that can be solved easily will make the other party instinctively think that it is a trivial matter. This is just like not cherishing things that are too easy to get. So Roger planned to delay it for a while, such as a week or 2. He only promised Kingpin to solve Daredevil's troubles, but did not promise to solve Daredevil immediately. In Roger's deliberate slacking state, a week passed quickly. During this week, he used the Dragon Bone to strengthen his body every day and constantly honed his fruit ability and domineering. In addition, he also participated in several charity galas with the new identity provided by Kingpin and generously threw out millions of dollars. Although the case against S.H.I.E.L.D. for violent law enforcement has not yet been heard in court, it has now attracted enough attention. Every day, a large number of people are discussing whether S.H.I.E.L.D. is violent in law enforcement and whether the Hand is really a notorious killer group. These ongoing debates have not only pushed S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Hand to the forefront, but also made Roger a well-deserved celebrity. As the new president of the Hand, his every move is likely to cause people to speculate. At this time, a classic scene happened again. The three views follow the five senses. Because of his extremely reliable appearance, the supporters of the Hand have a large number of female fans. He was also puzzled by this strange development at first, but he soon accepted it all with peace of mind. After all, this is a strange country that will set off a trend of dating prisoners because the prisoners are too handsome. Although the Hand is still suspected of being a killer group, no matter what, he is much better than those prisoners. Even prisoners can gain a large number of brainless fans because they are too handsome, so it is not particularly strange for him to gain a large number of crazy fans. In addition to daily training, strengthening the body, and occasionally attending charity parties, he also did something particularly important this week. He moved out of the Hand's safe house villa and spent more than $20 million to buy a penthouse apartment of more than 300 square meters in Manhattan. In order to buy this apartment, he opened an overseas account at a Swiss bank and used Kingpin's money laundering channels to launder $100 million from Miramasa and Alexandra's deposits. As an ally, Kingpin gave him a very favorable ally price and only charged him a 5% handling fee. The handling fee of $5 million is indeed very favorable. After delaying Kingpin for more than a week, he put on the wire armor again and swung towards the direction of Hell's Kitchen under the cover of night. I don't know if Daredevil has been too busy recently. The Hand ninjas he sent stayed in Hell's Kitchen for more than a week and didn't see any trace of Daredevil. Although his men didn't see Daredevil, they saw a very unexpected person. Professor Lizard. His men found traces of Professor Lizard in Hell's Kitchen. Chapter 62 Scorpion and Vulture. To be precise, he found Professor Lizard who was being hunted. At first, he didn't pay much attention to the news. As far as he knew, the people and organizations who wanted to capture Professor Lizard included Spider-Man, Osborn Group, S.H.I.E.L.D., and the police. There were even some people and organizations he didn't know who were targeting Professor Lizard. However, the news reported by the Hand Ninja was completely different from what he imagined. What the Hand Ninja saw was a scorpion-like man and a guy with wings chasing Professor Lizard. After hearing the report from the Hand Ninja and appreciating their extremely bad sketch, Roger thought of two people. Or rather, he thought of two relatively famous supervillains. Scorpion, Mac Gargan, and Vulture, Adrian Toomes. Although the one with wings could also be Falcon Sam Wilson. But judging from the sketch and related description provided by the Hand Ninja, the guy with wings is more likely to be Vulture. The strange combination of Scorpion and Vulture made Roger think of the Osborn Group. Because there are multiple parallel universes in the Marvel world, he is not sure whether Scorpion and Vulture are hired helpers of the Osborn Group or members of the Osborn Group. However, the appearance of Scorpion and Vulture still made him a little interested. In other words, it made him see the possibility of bounty missions. It has been more than half a month since the last mission. He now needs new bounty missions to increase his buried deposit. After changing into sportswear that is convenient for movement, he made himself a new wire armor. It is not a tight uniform like Spider-Man, nor is it an armor like Iron Man, but a black assassin suit with a hood. The inspiration of this assassin suit comes from a classic game, which has a medieval classical style. In addition to the assassin suit, he also made himself a black mask to cover half of his face. The Hand is now suing S.H.I.E.L.D., and as the new president of the Hand & Co. Limited, he still has to disguise himself. He doesn't want his carefully planned public opinion advantage to disappear. After making a good disguise, he pushed open the window that was not much different from the door and jumped out. Unlike the previous swing imitating Spider-Man, he no longer swung between buildings like Spider-Man. Instead, he used what he thought was just an ordinary skill, but in fact it was the ability of the string fruit. Skyway. He thought that Doflamingo just tied a thin line to the clouds to glide as a skill. However, after truly mastering this move, he found that this move was actually a serious move. Use a thin line to tie the clouds in the sky and use it to pull yourself to fly and move at high speed in midair. Compared with swinging like Tarzan, the Skyway move seems more pleasing to the eye. Of course, the Skyway also has its shortcomings. That is, if there are no clouds in the sky, it is impossible to chase. However, this shortcoming is not a disadvantage in New York, which has a large number of high-rise buildings. If there is no way to pull yourself through the clouds, then tie the building to pull. Although the effect of tying the building for traction is not as good as clouds, it is better than moving forward like a swing. Through the airway, Roger quickly went to Hell's Kitchen like a bat in the dark. Hell's Kitchen, located on the west coast of Manhattan Island, was a famous slum in the early years, known for its messy and backward living quality, serious ethnic conflicts, and high crime rate. Although Hell's Kitchen is slightly better now, it is still a favorite of gangsters. Using the flying effect of the airway, Roger, wearing a black assassin suit, easily came to Hell's Kitchen and found his men. After dismissing these ninjas, he flew towards the apartment where Daredevil Matt lived. Just as he was about to reach Daredevil Matt's apartment, he saw Matt, wearing a dark red uniform, appear on the roof of the apartment building, and then quickly moved in one direction. Where is he going? Daredevil Matt has not taken action for more than a week. Roger did not expect that Daredevil would suddenly take action, just when he was about to fulfill his promise. Watching Daredevil moving quickly on the rooftop, he followed him from a distance without hesitation. Although he didn't know what Daredevil was going to do, his intuition told him that following him would definitely bring him unexpected gains. More than 10 minutes later, he watched Daredevil enter an old apartment that looked older than him. He thought Daredevil had started the so-called vigilante action again and started to crack down on criminal activities in Hell's Kitchen. But soon, he found out that he had guessed wrong. Not long after Daredevil entered the old apartment, more than a dozen ninjas wearing ninja uniforms of various colors appeared in the streets and alleys near the apartment. Then, they entered the apartment without saying a word. The ninjas of the Holy Society, why are they here? Although he didn't see the old man with a green hat among these ninjas, Roger recognized their identities at a glance. In the Marvel world, there are only two well-known ninja organizations. One is the Hand, which has become his subordinate, and the other is the Holy Society, which is tit for tat with the Hand. Of course, it is not ruled out that there are some ninja organizations that he doesn't know about. However, the only two ninja organizations that can be related to Daredevil are the Hand and the Holy Society. When these Holy Society ninjas entered the apartment, Roger thought for more than 10 seconds, and then went directly to the roof of the apartment. The moment he came to the roof of the apartment, white silk threads emerged under his feet one after another. Under his control, these silk threads quickly covered the entire apartment like a spider web. After doing all this, he opened the silk thread on the door of the roof and walked in calmly. Then, he closed the silk thread again to a degree that humans could never pass through. The apartment was very quiet and dark. Walking down the stairs, Roger came to the room where Daredevil and others were. There was no sound in the room, but he was sure that Daredevil and others were inside. If he guessed correctly, they should have picked up weapons and were ready to attack at any time. Daredevil Matt is blind, but his other four senses have been greatly enhanced. Roger even suspected that Daredevil had already noticed his arrival the moment he landed on the roof of the apartment building. After a few seconds of silence, he raised his hand and knocked gently on the door. However, at the moment he knocked on the door, several sharp samurai swords penetrated the wooden door and stabbed at him fiercely. P.S. I made a mistake when I looked up the information about this move of Kandeo. I thought it was just a technique, but I didn't expect it to be a real move. Chapter 63 Threatening Daredevil. Roger took a half step back and easily avoided the attack of the samurai swords. Looking at these samurai swords, he frowned slightly. He originally planned to solve the problem of Daredevil in a friendly way, but judging from the current situation, the other party did not seem to be willing to give him such an opportunity. Before the ninja behind the door drew back the samurai sword, Roger raised his right hand, turned it into a beast claw, and waved it down. 5 colored lines. 5 sharp thin lines of different colors flowed out from the fingertips and instantly cut through the door. That was not solid at all. Bang! The door shattered with a sound, and Roger rushed into the room like a ghost, raising his hand, punching. In the blink of an eye, the 3 Holy Society ninjas behind the door were knocked out by him and hit the wall heavily. After the strengthening of the dragon bone, his physical fitness has far surpassed that of normal people. Compared with 2 weeks ago, his physical fitness has been strengthened by at least twice. Of course, this is just his own estimate. He has not calculated the specific degree of strengthening, and there is no way to make an accurate calculation. In a word, he is very strong now. I don't want to kill anyone today. Don't make yourself unhappy. After saying that, he glanced at Daredevil and others, and walked into the living room naturally, sitting on the old sofa that was not even qualified to enter the second-hand market. Sit down. I don't like to look up and talk to people. Roger looked up at Daredevil Matt and said again. After a few seconds of silence, Daredevil Matt sat down. Although Daredevil Matt couldn't see Roger's posture and appearance, he could clearly sense the indescribable ease in Roger. Being able to maintain such a relaxed posture in this environment can only mean one thing. Roger, fearless. Who are you? What do you want from us? When Daredevil Matt spoke, the other ninjas of the Holy Society tacitly stepped back a few steps and put away the samurai swords in their hands. The weapons were put away, but they did not relax their vigilance and still looked at Roger with the eyes of looking at the enemy. Roger ignored the ninjas of the Holy Order and said to Daredevil, "It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is that your actions have caused some trouble to my ally. Although I don't like this ally very much, I'm a very trustworthy person. If you don't mind, I hope you can disappear for a while. Not for a long time, just a year will be fine." Roger's tone was very relaxed, as if he was telling passers-by to make way. "So you are Kingpin's man. What if I don't agree?" If Daredevil Matt's tone just now was relatively polite, then now, his tone can be considered very harsh, even with a hint of murderous intent. "I thought you were just blind, but I didn't expect that you have poor hearing too. Don't you understand the word ally? I'm not Kingpin's man, not now, and not in the future. If you don't agree, then I can only implement the second plan. Believe me, you won't like my second plan." As soon as the voice fell, the whole building shook abruptly. After he completely covered the entire apartment with white silk thread, the life and death of Daredevil and others were under his control. Without his permission, none of Daredevil and others could leave here alive. "Are you threatening me?" Daredevil stood up, and his hands involuntarily clenched the short stick behind him. "Yes, I'm threatening you. Whether you live or die, you can decide now." Roger's tone was as calm as ever. The reason why he used the solution of Daredevil as a condition was because Daredevil was very easy to deal with. Not to mention him now. Even if he was 2 weeks ago, he could kill Daredevil within a minute. For Kingpin's men, Daredevil is a very difficult opponent. But for him, Daredevil is just an ordinary person with a good fighting level. Yes, just an ordinary person. Daredevil has the peak strength, speed, agility, and endurance of ordinary people, and is proficient in many fighting skills. The other 4 senses besides vision have also been greatly enhanced. But even so, in front of Roger, he is still an ordinary person. An ordinary person who is not a trouble at all. "Aren't you afraid that I will go back on my word after I agree to your promise?" Daredevil spoke again. "You can try. But if you really do this, I can guarantee that you will not be the only one who will die. Your lawyer friend, your girlfriend, and even your brothers and sisters in the Holy Society will all die. If you don't believe me, I can kill these guys right now to prove it." When Roger said the words lawyer friend and the Holy Society, Daredevil and the Holy Society ninjas immediately drew their weapons. Daredevil could repeatedly fight against Kingpin's criminal actions without dying in his hands, not because his strength had reached the point where he could ignore Kingpin's revenge, but because his true identity was never known to Kingpin. Otherwise, no matter how good his fighting skills were, he could not resist Kingpin's revenge. And now, Roger pointed out his identity in one breath. Although Roger did not say his name directly, the words lawyer friend and the Holy Society were enough to prove that his identity was no longer a secret. Who are you? Daredevil's tone became extremely cold. If Roger hadn't just shown off his skills, he would have been unable to resist attacking Roger. I told you, it doesn't matter who I am. Take a year off. You can't change the world, and you don't have the ability to change the world. After saying that, Roger left the room without looking back, and removed the silk thread that enveloped the building. Until he completely left the apartment, Daredevil and the ninjas of the Holy Society did not attack him. After leaving the apartment, he ignored Daredevil and the ninjas of the Holy Society, and flew directly to the place where Professor Lizard had appeared. He thought Daredevil and the ninjas of the Holy Society could trigger the system to give a new bounty mission, but it turned out that he thought too much. Perhaps, like him, the system did not take Daredevil and the Holy Society seriously, and did not think they were qualified to take on the bounty mission. Although no mission was triggered from Daredevil and the ninjas of the Holy Society, he did not care too much about it. It was useless to rush for a bounty mission. If the system was unwilling to issue it, he could not force the system to issue it. Besides Daredevil and others, he has a second mission trigger point. Scorpion Mark Gargan and Vulture Adriantums may also trigger the bounty mission. But the premise is that he can meet both of them. P.S. Thanks to Mark Suyan and C7910 for the reward. Thank you for your support. Chapter 64 The third bounty mission. Hell's Kitchen is not big, but it is not small either. It is not easy to find Professor Lizard who is hiding his tracks here. Even though Roger knows that Professor Lizard has an innate charm that attracts small lizards, it does not mean that he can easily find Professor Lizard. Besides him, Spider-Man also knows this. Professor Lizard may not have noticed this problem before, but after the battle in the underwater road, he will definitely find a way to prevent these small lizards from revealing their tracks. After arriving at the place where the hand ninja found Professor Lizard, he checked the surrounding situation a little. The hand ninja witnessed Professor Lizard being chased by scorpions and vultures 2 days ago. Although 2 days have passed, the traces left by the battle at that time are still preserved here. Hell's Kitchen can't even manage the security environment well, let alone the sanitary environment. After checking the traces left at the scene, he sighed helplessly. Observation hacky. If he had the observation hacky now, even if he couldn't immediately determine the location of Professor Lizard, he wouldn't be so clueless as he is now. Thinking of this, he became more and more excited about the new bounty mission. At the same time, he despised the mall that had not been refreshed for a long time. It had been more than half a month, and the goods in the mall were still the same as last time, which also broke his fantasy that the mall update time would be advanced from 1 month to 1 week. Since there was no way to find any useful clues at the battle scene, he could only use the simplest and crudest carpet search. After taking a look at the direction of departure indicated by the traces of the battle, he performed the air path again, and flew in the night sky like a black bat. Time passed by little, and just when he was considering whether to call the ninjas of the Hand-to-Hand Society to search together, a green figure suddenly appeared in his sight. The moment he saw this green figure, he ended the air path directly, landed on the roof of a building, and looked at the bird-like figure. Vulture. Although the night was a little dim, Roger recognized his identity at a glance. Vulture Adriantums was wearing a green, bird-like special flight suit. From a distance, he looked like the angels with wings on their backs in myths and legends. However, compared with the legendary angels, the vultures, who had no hair on their heads, were not as good in temperament. After seeing the vulture circling in the air, Roger looked in the direction of the streets and buildings. Sure enough, after searching carefully for more than 10 seconds, he saw the vulture's partner, Scorpion McGargan. Like the vultures, Scorpion McGargan was also wearing a green combat suit. To be precise, it was a green combat suit like a scorpion. If you only look at the outline, McGargan and the Scorpion combat suit looks a bit similar to Professor Lizard. Both have a huge tail that humans don't have, and a green appearance. The fact that both Vulture Adriantums and Scorpion McGargan are here means that he is looking in the right direction. However, judging from the performance of the vultures and scorpions, they have not yet determined the final whereabouts of Professor Lizard. just as he was looking at the vulture and the scorpion, trying to follow them to find Professor Lizard. The bounty mission information that had not appeared for more than half a month appeared in his mind again. Bounty mission: defeat and subdue the vulture and the scorpion. Mission reward: 20 million berries. Observation hacky. Mission progress: 0 halves. Defeat and subdue? Looking at the description of the mission, Roger frowned slightly. He could understand defeating the vulture and the scorpion, but subduing the two of them was a bit beyond his expectations. Capturing, killing, defeating and other requirements are all requirements with clear standards, and it is clear whether they have been completed or not. But subduing is different. It is not something that can be judged all at once. More importantly, what is the criterion for successful subjugation? After thinking for a few seconds, he gave up thinking. If the system can give this requirement, then the system must have a criterion for judgment. In this case, let the system make the judgment. As for how to subdue the vulture and the scorpion, Roger recalled the third rule of the law of crossing in his mind, which is to convince people with reason. After giving up thinking about the criteria for judging the conquest, he began to calculate the reward for this mission: 20 million berries. Although this reward is not as good as the 30 million berries of the 5 fingers of the hand before. However, there are only 2 people, vulture and scorpion, so their average worth is still higher than that of Madame Gao and others. As for observation hacky, judging from the purchase price of armament hacky, it should also be 28 million berries. In the category of hacky, there are only 2 products, armament hacky and observation hacky. Although conqueror hacky is also hacky, it is not on the list of products in the mall. According to the explanation of those programmers, conqueror hacky is innate, so the mall does not support purchase. If you want conqueror hacky, then work hard to practice. Of course, the most important point is to look at fate. Zuan can't change non-existence, and Krypton can't change fate. No matter which world you are in, this is a universal rule. Even for Travis's, it is the same. The 20 million berry reward, plus the observation hacky, the total reward for this bounty mission reached 48 million berries. Although it is not as good as the bounty mission of the hand, it is not bad. After withdrawing his attention from the bounty mission, his eyes changed when he looked at the vulture and scorpion. In his eyes, the vulture and scorpion were no longer so-called supervillains, but mobile mission rewards. Without any hesitation, he immediately performed the air path and flew quickly towards the vulture. In battle, air supremacy is crucial. Therefore, compared with ground units, air units are always the priority targets. Not long after Roger performed the air path, the vulture hovering in the air discovered his trace. Before the vulture flew towards him, Roger aimed his right palm at the vulture. Over the whip line, the white line column with a diameter of 2 or 3 centimeters flew towards the vulture. Adrian Toomes. The speed of the white line column is not slow, but the speed and flexibility of the vulture are not bad at all. Vulture made an extremely beautiful evasive maneuver and dodged the attack of the white line column in an instant. At the same time, he quickly closed the distance between himself and Roger. After missing the whip line, Roger was not in a hurry and used the air path to retreat a distance. Although the air path gave him a certain flying ability, compared with the vulture wearing a flight suit, his maneuverability and speed in the air are far inferior to the vulture. In a few seconds, the vulture came in front of him and grabbed him fiercely with its claws like an eagle. P.S. The image and setting of the vulture and scorpion are both adopted from the comics. There will be no Holland brother Spider-Man in the movie universe here, and of course there will be no vulture wearing a mechanical flight suit in the movie universe. Chapter 65 Line flow wall. Too slow. Although his mobility in the air is completely incomparable to that of the vulture, this does not prevent him from despising the speed of the vulture. But this cannot be blamed on the vulture. Before becoming the supervillain vulture, Adrian Toomes was just a famous electronic engineer. Simply put, he is an intelligent character. This can be seen from the fact that Adrian Toomes has no bald hair. Extremely smart. Adrian Toomes perfectly proved this with his own image. Just when the vulture's hawk-like right hand was about to hit him, Roger's right hand quickly emerged with white silk threads, which were instantly woven into a white glove. Then, he grabbed the vulture's right hand with his own right hand. 10 fingers interlocked. Your hand is quite soft. After grabbing the vulture's right hand, Roger suddenly said, "This guy." Although the vulture couldn't keep up with Roger's thoughts, Roger's tone of voice made him involuntarily get goosebumps. Just as he tried to flap his wings behind him to get away from Roger, hundreds of white threads appeared in Roger's right hand again. When these white threads, that seemed to have life, came towards him, the vulture knew that he was in trouble. His intuition was right. Under his gaze, these white threads quickly came to his body and entangled him and the wings behind him. In just 1 or 2 seconds, Adrian Toombs, who was wearing a special flight suit, completely changed his image. From a green badman with wings on his back, he turned into a white mummy. After doing all this, Roger released his right hand and landed on the roof of the building below with the mummy-like vulture. If the system required not to defeat and subdue, but to kill, then he could complete half of the task immediately. Defeating the vulture was not difficult for him. The difficult part was how to subdue the vulture. Regarding this, he planned to slowly consider it after defeating another target, the scorpion. Putting down the vulture in his hand, which had been completely deprived of the ability to fly and move, Roger looked at the scorpion MacGargan, who was rushing over at a high speed. Like Adrian Toombs, MacGargan was originally an ordinary person. However, the scorpion suit on his body gave him strength and physique far beyond that of ordinary people. More importantly, MacGargan is more radical than Vulture. On the surface, it was MacGargan who was fighting in the scorpion suit. But in fact, the one who really controlled the initiative was the scorpion suit on his body. The scorpion suit, which was specially designed for combat, has unquestionable combat performance. The person wearing it can compete with Spider-Man Peter Parker and even gain an advantage. However, this scorpion suit also has a flaw that cannot be ignored. That is, the scorpion suit will gradually erode the wearer's brain thinking and even take the initiative. It is precisely because of this flaw that MacGargan, who was originally just a private detective, has become a real supervillain and destroyer. Not long after, Scorpion MacGargan came to the roof of Roger's building and looked at him with eyes like looking at prey. As for the vulture lying on the ground like a mummy, he simply ignored it. Scorpion MacGargan did not hesitate for too long. After a few seconds of looking at Roger, who was dressed like an assassin, he rushed towards Roger. He did not consider any complicated attack routes and rushed straight towards Roger like a wild beast. Seeing Scorpion MacGargan, who was almost running on all fours, Roger raised his right hand and then swung it down suddenly. Rogue line. 5 forked silk lines like leaf rakes fell from the sky. Ding. Roger calculated very accurately, and the rogue line appeared in the path of Scorpion MacGargan with great precision. However, the rogue line that had pierced Miramis's body did not pierce Scorpion MacGargan's body at this time. The Scorpion combat suit on MacGargan showed extremely excellent defensive capabilities and directly blocked Roger's rogue line. This kind of defense, although the defensibility of the Scorpion combat suit was beyond his expectations, Roger still had no intention of dodging. Just when MacGargan was only 1 or 2 meters away from him, hundreds of white silk threads emerged from his right hand again. Spider's nest. A spider web-like defense wall with a diameter of several meters suddenly emerged and blocked Scorpion MacGargan. Bang! Scorpion MacGargan hit the spider's nest heavily, causing the spider's nest connected to the surrounding walls and the ground to shake slightly. Scorpion MacGargan's impact was no less than a truck running at full speed. But the defense of the spider's nest should not be underestimated. Although the spider's nest blocked Scorpion MacGargan's attack, it failed to completely stop his attack. At the moment when he was blocked by the spider's nest, the metal scorpion tail with a sharp hook behind MacGargan passed through the gap in the spider's nest and attacked Roger like a sharp blade. Facing the attack of the scorpion tail, Roger calmly stepped back a few steps and left the attack range of the scorpion tail. Seeing that the scorpion tail could not reach Roger, MacGargan did not hesitate and activated the secret weapon in the scorpion tail. Sulfuric acid spray. The colorless and transparent concentrated sulfuric acid shot at Roger like a high-pressure water column. If Roger knew nothing about the Scorpion MacGargan, he might really be hit by MacGargan's sulfuric acid attack. Line flow wall. At this time, Roger did not perform the moves he learned from Doflamingo, but performed an original move of his own. White silk threads flowed out of his body and instantly formed a white wall composed entirely of silk threads in front of him. On the side of the line flow wall facing the enemy, he also spent some time to build a few Bordeaux dog head sculptures on it. Whether a move can be remembered by people depends not only on the effect of the move, but also on the external performance. The sulfuric acid shot from the scorpion tail shot at the line flow wall, and then nothing happened. Although sulfuric acid is highly corrosive, the silk threads made by the thread fruit are not a scientific product. Even Roger himself does not know what kind of existence these silk threads are. However, he is very sure of one thing, that is, never look at these silk threads with existing scientific concepts. After using the thread flow wall to block the sulfuric acid attack of Scorpion Gargan, Roger began his counterattack. Under his control, the silk threads that make up the thread flow wall and the spider's nest surged wildly, sweeping towards Scorpion Gargan like waves. Thread-bound coffin. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 66. Meet Professor Lizard again. Since the last time he used the thread waterfall to send Madame Gao away, Roger thought that using thin threads to imitate ninjutsu was a good idea. Although not all ninjutsu can be imitated, even if only a small part of it can add a lot of moves to him. So, he went further and further on the road of imitating ninjutsu with devil fruits. Although Scorpion Gargan dodged at the first time, the wave-like silk thread still swallowed him instantly. In a few seconds, Scorpion Gargan was heavily wrapped by the white silk thread. Looking at Scorpion Gargan with only his head exposed and Vulture Adrian Toombs lying on the ground like a mummy, Roger took out his mobile phone and called Jai. Defeating Scorpion Gargan and Vulture was considered completed, but there was still a long way to go before completing the task. How to subdue them both, and the kind of subjugation that was recognized by the system, is the focus of this task. After calling Jai, Roger, wearing assassin clothes, came to the edge of the roof and sat down. There is an indescribable silence in Hell's Kitchen at night. There were no pedestrians or vehicles on the wide street, except for the occasional gunshots and screams from afar. The silence of Hell's Kitchen made Roger involuntarily think of the advertising slogans of some real estate developers. Successful people, top residences, away from the hustle and bustle of the city, sitting on a piece of pure land, enjoying the supreme nobility. Once people are idle, it is easy to have some inexplicable associations. Roger is now in this state of random thinking. However, his inexplicable association was soon interrupted by someone. "Let me go. You sissy who plays with silk threads. If you have the guts, come and fight me between men." Scorpion Gargan, who was bound by the string coffin, obviously had not accepted his fate of failure, and shouted at Roger. Of course, it is also possible that the corrosion of the Scorpion combat suit affected his normal thinking, so that he still shouted at Roger in the current environment. Roger's response to Scorpion Gargan's shouting was simple. He directly controlled the silk thread to seal the mouth of Scorpion Gargan, and controlled the silk thread to enter Gargan's body from his throat. After letting the silk thread stir in Gargan's body, he completely calmed down and rolled his eyes uncontrollably. Just as Roger was patiently waiting for Jai and others to come, Professor Lizard appeared in a nearby alley in an extremely wretched manner. Professor Lizard didn't know about the battle between Roger and Scorpion Vulture. The reason why he came out of his hiding place was to find the next experimental materials. After robbing the laboratory of S.H.I.E.L.D., he robbed several biological laboratories of other groups. But even so, he still couldn't complete his restoration experiment. He thought his restoration equation was perfect enough, but it turned out that this was just his wishful thinking. Coming out of the dark alley, Professor Lizard first observed the surrounding environment. After confirming that there were no people from S.H.I.E.L.D., Osborn Group, and the police around, he climbed up the wall to the roof and planned to go to the laboratories that had not yet been killed by him. However, just after he reached the rooftop, he saw Roger on the rooftop of the building opposite, and the Scorpion and Vulture behind him. Why is he here? Although Roger changed his image again Professor Lizard still recognized him at a glance. Just as he was thinking about whether to go over and say hello to Roger, who was sitting on the edge of the roof, waved at him. "Why are you here?" After coming near Roger, Professor Lizard took a look at the vulture and scorpion that were tightly bound by silk threads, and then asked Roger, "Come here to deal with something." Roger pointed to the vulture and scorpion behind him, and then continued, "How is your experiment going? If you need any help, I may be able to provide you with some help." Although Professor Lizard is not a super genius like Tony Stark or Reed Richards, he can also be regarded as a rare intelligent talent. Helping Professor Lizard without affecting his own interests may have some good rewards in the future. The experiment is going well, but the materials are not enough. After saying that, Professor Lizard was silent for a few seconds. Although he had only met Roger 4 times, including this time, he had a good impression of Roger. After he turned into this monster, Roger was the only one who treated him as a normal person. "Give me a list. I'll see if I can help you collect some," Roger answered casually. "Why do you want to help me?" Professor Lizard looked at Roger seriously with his vertical pupils and asked his doubts. "No reason. Just do it when you want to, and isn't it normal to invest in technology talents like you?" Roger still looked casual. After hearing Roger's answer, the big tail behind Professor Lizard shook unconsciously. After more than 10 seconds, he spoke again. "Thank you." After that, he said a lot of extremely professional terms to Roger without any politeness. Roger's memory was pretty good, but he didn't want to waste brain cells on this, so he took out his mobile phone and handed it to Professor Lizard. "Type it out yourself. I'm afraid I'll forget it by then." After taking Roger's phone, Professor Lizard used his mutant right hand to type carefully on the phone. He couldn't be careless. If he used a little more force, he might crush or puncture the phone. Watching Professor Lizard typing carefully like a kindergarten kid, Roger sighed silently. As a top scientist in the field of cross-species genetics, it's no wonder that Professor Lizard wants to be a normal person again when he is forced to this point. Take Roger himself for example. If he were to become so ugly, he would rather consider other ways to gain strength. Being strong or not is a matter of one version. Being handsome or not is a matter of a lifetime. When Professor Lizard finally finished typing the list of materials he needed, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. However, just when he was about to hand the phone back to Roger, the phone screen broke with a click. "Don't be so nervous, it's just the screen that's broken." After taking the phone back and checking it, Roger said with a smile, "I'll try my best to find what you want for you. If you don't mind, I can provide you with a safe house, so that you can have more comfortable residence and laboratory. P.S. Thank you for the reward from Esperett. Thank you for your support." Chapter 67 Brainwashing. Professor Lizard eventually left Hell's Kitchen with Roger. Since he had already accepted Roger's help with materials, there was no big difference in accepting the accommodation and laboratory provided by Roger. Because he met Professor Lizard temporarily and decided to take Professor Lizard away from Hell's Kitchen, the vehicles that Jai brought for the first time were not enough to take everyone away at once. In the end, Professor Lizard decided to wait for the second convoy in Hell's Kitchen. After all, he would leave with his own experimental data and equipment in person before he felt relieved. Roger didn't say anything about Professor Lizard's decision. In Queens, in a secret safe house of the Hand. After bringing Vulture Adriantums and Scorpion McGargan to the safe house, the first thing Roger did was to let the Hand Ninjas take off their clothes. They must not continue to wear combat uniforms. I don't know if it was because the orders he issued were not clear enough, or if the Hand Ninjas overinterpreted his orders. When he returned to the room where Vulture and Scorpion were imprisoned, he saw 2 bald men. Moreover, they were 2 men who had been injected with a large amount of sedatives and were in a state of mental dissociation. Looking at Scorpion and Vulture, who were naked and bound by iron chains, he almost spit out the coffee in his mouth. "Put on their pants." Roger frowned and said to the Hand Ninja next to him. After Vulture and Scorpion put on their pants, he sat on the chair specially prepared by the Hand Ninja and thought about how to subdue them. When he just returned to the safe house, he thought about this problem roughly. Madame Gao and others can brainwash their ninjas to the point where they will not hesitate to sacrifice their lives because they have mastered the secret method obtained from the demon beast. Although he has become the new leader of the Hand and can control the Hand ninjas through the ring, he does not have any information about the secret method of brainwashing. This secret method of brainwashing is only in the hands of Madame Gao and others. As for whether Madame Gao and others have left relevant information, he does not know and cannot confirm it. The headquarters building of the Hand was taken down by SHIELD, and the residences of Madame Gao and others are probably the same. So even if there is any secret information, it will only be in the hands of SHIELD. The Hand's secret brainwashing method can't be counted on, but now is the age of the internet. If you have a problem, go to Google. Although the brainwashing methods Google comes up with may not be useful, it doesn't matter at all. Anyway, he didn't plan to take care of the mental health of Vulture and Scorpion. He just wanted Vulture and Scorpion to pass the system's subjugation judgment. And if one method doesn't work, there are still the second, third, and fourth methods. Try them one by one, and there will always be success. If none of them work, then you can only consider convincing people with reason. The reason why convincing people with reason is not considered to be the first priority is that, after convincing people with reason, Vulture and Scorpion may not be intact. If convincing people with reason doesn't work, he may not have the opportunity to practice other brainwashing methods. So, he decided to start with mental brainwashing. If it doesn't work, then consider physical persuasion. After Google randomly came up with a scientific brainwashing method that is said to be very useful, he began to let the ninjas surround him prepare special brainwashing props, eyelid opening devices for eye surgery, special brainwashing audio and video, controlled psychotropic drugs. There are many things needed, but for the ninjas of the Hand, none of them is difficult. A few hours later, the ninjas of the Hand brought back all the tools Roger needed and transformed the room where Vulture and the other two were imprisoned into a special brainwashing hypnosis room. After instructing Jai, who had already settled Professor Lizard about the matters to be paid attention to, Roger opened the space door and left the safe house and used the continuous transfer between the space doors to return to his new home in Manhattan. Time passed day by day, and soon, a week had passed since he brought Vulture and the other two back to the safe house. During this week, the case of the Hand Co. Limited suing SHIELD for violent law enforcement finally entered the pre-trial meeting stage. The discussion about whether SHIELD enforced the law violently became extremely intense under the instigation of the Water Army. Roger had only one instruction for the fat lawyer, that is, to resolutely not withdraw the lawsuit. Even if he lost the case, he had to fight on. In addition to this case, he continued to strengthen his body with dragon bones every day during this week. As the number of times he strengthened his body increased, he found that the amount of dragon bones he needed to consume each time was also increasing. According to the current stock of dragon bones, he estimated that he could only strengthen it 2 or 3 times at most, and Alexandra's dragon bones would be completely consumed by him. Looking at the decreasing number of dragon bones, he began to think about whether to dig out the dragon bones buried underground in New York. He knew that there were a lot of dragon bones buried underground in New York, but the problem was that he didn't know where those dragon bones were buried. It was a very uncomfortable feeling to know that there was a treasure buried underground, but not knowing the specific location. In the end, he temporarily gave up this idea. There were less than 200 Hand ninjas left, and even if they were all sent out, it would be impossible to find the location where the dragon bones were buried. More importantly, once he asked the Hand ninjas to look for dragon bones, his ally Kingpin would definitely intervene. Although he and Kingpin were allies now, both he and Kingpin knew that their alliance was extremely fragile. As long as there are enough interests, the alliance between them will be more fragile than a piece of paper and will break with a poke. The dragon bone is almost gone, and the brainwashing of Vulture and Scorpion is not going well. Just when he was considering whether to deal a heavy blow to Vulture and Scorpion, his cell phone suddenly rang. "Young master, the people of Osborne Group contacted Kingpin and said they want to meet with you." Among the ninjas of the Hand, only Kazuchi has his phone number. Now Kazuchi has basically been used by him as a deputy. When they said the time is up to you. After hearing Kazuchi's answer, He was silent for a few seconds and then continued. Then tomorrow night, you go find a high-end restaurant and tell them the time and place. After saying that, he hung up the phone directly. He didn't expect the Osborn group to suddenly look for him at this time. But since the Osborn group took the initiative to propose a meeting, he didn't mind going over to meet them. Although Professor Lizard is now staying in the laboratory he arranged, he is not worried that the Osborn group will make trouble for this. When he first came to this world, he dared to snatch Professor Lizard from the Osborn group. Now that his strength has increased significantly, he is certainly not afraid of the Osborn group. P.S. It feels like it has been a long time since I asked for recommendation tickets and monthly tickets, so I will ask for recommendation tickets and monthly tickets. Come on, use recommendation tickets and monthly tickets to crush the apprentice. Chapter 68 Transaction. At 9 o'clock in the evening, Roger changed into the crimson suit with the help of the puppet. Then, he took the elevator to the underground garage. Jia Yi and others, who were dressed in black suits, had already arrived at the garage waiting for his arrival. More than half an hour later, he came to the restaurant he had reserved and saw Norman Osborn, whom he had only seen on TV and in newspapers before. The handmade custom suit was expensive at first glance, and the short blonde hair was very exquisitely groomed. Although Norman Osborn was no longer young, he exuded the temperament of an elite. After seeing Roger, Norman Osborn stood up, walked in front of him, and stretched out his right hand with a smile. Finally, I have the opportunity to meet you, Mr. Wayne. Norman Osborn smiled and looked very friendly. It's my honor too. After shaking hands with Norman Osborn, Roger replied with a smile. After saying hello, Roger and Norman Osborn came to their respective seats and sat down, looking at each other at the same time. Although this is a restaurant, they did not come here to enjoy dinner. Just when Roger was about to get straight to the point, Norman Osborn spoke first. I heard that Dr. Connors is now a guest in your laboratory. I wonder if Mr. Wayne can return Dr. Connors to me and let the doctor return to the Osborn group to complete the unfinished work. Roger was not surprised that Norman Osborn knew that Professor Lizard was taken away by him. Although the Osborn group does not look powerful, it is a business giant after all, and it is also a business giant that has cooperated with the military. It is not particularly strange that they have some special intelligence channels of their own. What's more, during this period of time, he also acquired a lot of experimental materials in the name of Hand & Co Limited. I don't think Dr. Connors will have this idea for the time being. If you are here just for Dr. Connors tonight, Mr. Osborn, then I can only say sorry to you. He will definitely not hand over the person. He finally found such an intelligent talent like Dr. Connors, and he also invested a lot of money in Dr. Connors. It is neither in line with his character nor in his interests to return the person to the Osborn group. $300 million. As long as you return Dr. Connors to me, $300 million will appear in your account tomorrow. Norman Osborn gave his offer without saying anything. A relatively tempting offer. If he hadn't gotten some information about Roger's strength from Kingpin, Norman Osborn would never have considered buying back Dr. Connors with money. As expected of the Osborn group, they are generous. But I still refuse. It would be a lie to say that he was not tempted by $300 million. But it was a bit too much to ask him to hand over Dr. Connors for this money. As I said, he would not hand over a person. However, he did not intend to let go of the $300 million from the Osborn group. After knowing that Norman Osborn was going to meet him, he went to Kingpin to buy some information like Norman Osborn. Later, he finally figured out why Norman Osborn was obsessed with Dr. Connors. On the surface, the cross-species genetic research conducted by Dr. Connors at the Osborn group is aimed at curing medical problems such as regeneration of broken limbs. But in fact, the Osborn group does not intend to apply the results of cross-species genetic research in the medical field. In other words, it does not want to apply the research results only in the medical field. Although the Osborn group is also a little interested in curing diseases and saving lives, this is not their ultimate pursuit. What they really want is orders from the military. Since Captain America Rogers was dug out of the ice by S.H.I.E.L.D. and became the face of S.H.I.E.L.D., the military's enthusiasm for super soldiers has become unprecedentedly high. Now there are far more companies trying to win orders for the military's super soldier project than the Osborn Group. Even within the military, super soldier projects in different fields have been launched. $300 million is not a small amount. It's better for young people not to be too greedy. After hearing Roger's refusal, Norman Osborn's face darkened a little, and his tone was no longer as friendly as before. In his opinion, Roger was going to ask for a high price. I will definitely not hand over the person, but I may give you what you want. After saying that, Roger raised his right hand. Jai, who was standing beside him, handed him the black briefcase without any hesitation. You want Dr. Connors, just because you want the genetic medicine formula he researched. The formula you want is in this box now. If you have a professional around you, you can check it now. Roger put the briefcase on the table and gently pushed it to Norman Osborn. Norman Osborn didn't expect Roger to do this to him. Just as he was about to open the briefcase, he suddenly stopped and said with a smile, "Aren't you afraid that I will refuse to pay after someone checks the formula? The Osborn Group is a big family, and it shouldn't be a debt of only $300 million." Although Roger didn't say it clearly, everyone present could hear the threat in his words. The Osborn building is in Manhattan. If Norman Osborn intends to default on his debt, he doesn't mind going to the door in person to collect the debt. You are more interesting than I thought. After saying that, Norman Osborn opened the briefcase and took out the documents inside. It was called a document, but in fact it was just a piece of paper. A piece of paper with the formula of the lizard gene potion written on it. Just by taking a look, Norman Osborn knew that the formula was true. He had seen the formula submitted by Dr. Connors before, but compared with the formula in front of him, the previous one obviously lacked some key information. But now, this information has been filled in to form a complete equation. This is the equation given by Dr. Connors, but you should also know that this equation is not perfect. So you have to find a way to solve the sequelae of the potion yourself. When Norman Osborn looked at him again, Roger gave a warm reminder from the cellar. In fact, even if he didn't remind him, Norman Osborn knew this very well. Just look at Dr. Connors' current appearance, and you can know that the equation has not been completely perfected. It doesn't matter. The wild beast form is not necessarily a defect. Norman Osborn didn't mind this sequelae. In his opinion, this sequelae is not only not a defect, but a good thing. The account for receiving the payment is on the back of the equation. I hope I can see the information of the deposit before noon tomorrow. P.S. Thank you for your award for your good book. Thank you for your support. Chapter 69 Pain Interrogation. After meeting Norman Osborn, he exchanged the formula of the lizard gene potion for $300 million. This made Roger sigh that, if he wanted to make money, he still needed to take advantage of the big dogs. Times have changed, and the traditional money-making skills of the gangs have not kept up with the times. Thinking of this, he looked down on Mrs. Gao and others. What era is it, and they are still playing the traditional gangs and killers? The road is narrow. Just when Roger thought the business had been discussed and was about to leave the restaurant, Norman Osborn, who was sitting opposite him, said again, "I wonder if Mr. Wayne is willing to trade Scorpion and Vulture. Do you want to buy them too?" Roger showed a puzzled look. He knew that Scorpion and Vulture were specially invited by Norman Osborn to deal with Dr. Connors, and he also gave them a very good reward. He had confirmed this from Scorpion and Vulture. However, he did not expect that Norman Osborn would still care about them. This is just like hiring a killer to kill someone. The employer does not need to be responsible for the safety of the killer. If the killer is caught, he can only blame his poor skills. No, you misunderstood. What I mean is, if you don't mind, Mr. Wayne, I hope to buy the combat uniforms on the two of them. As expected of an old fox who cooperates with the military, he started by talking about the most valuable things on Vulture and Scorpion. Although the combat uniforms on Vulture and Scorpion cannot be compared with Tony Stark's iron armor, they can also be regarded as very good equipment. It can even be said that before Tony's iron armor was born, these two combat uniforms are basically the top products among individual equipment. Let's talk about this later. Before completing the bounty mission, he did not plan to sell Vulture and Scorpion's equipment for the time being. Although he did not like Vulture and the two very much, and did not even plan to take them as his subordinates. but for the reward of the mission, he could only keep them for the time being. As for what the fate of Vulture and Scorpion will be after receiving the mission reward, he couldn't say for sure now. That's a pity. If Mr. Wayne plans to sell the 2 sets of equipment, he might as well give priority to the Osborn group. After saying that, Norman Osborn took out an exquisite business card box from his arms and took out a card from it. Then, he asked his men to hand it to Roger respectfully. Unlike other people's fancy business cards, Norman Osborn's business card only has a name and phone number. There are no messy titles, nor any decorative patterns. Simple, pure, and clear at a glance. At the same time, it also reveals Norman Osborn's confidence and confidence. Not writing positions and titles is, because it is not necessary. In other words, Norman Osborn has absolute confidence, confident that everyone who knows his name knows his identity. No problem. I also look forward to more cooperation with the Osborn group. After putting the business card away, Roger left the restaurant with Jai and others. Queens, the secret safe house of the hand. Roger frowned slightly as he looked at the Vulture and Scorpion who were undergoing the brainwashing process in front of him. A week had passed, and the system had not yet recognized that he had subdued the Vulture and Scorpion. Although the 2 of them had verbally expressed their willingness to join the hand many times, as long as the system did not recognize them, Roger would not believe them. After taking a look at the Vulture and Scorpion who were only wearing pants, Roger asked Jai and others to remove the brainwashing equipment. Facts have proved that brainwashing is not something that every organization can do easily. In Roger's memory, in addition to the hand, which can use secret methods to turn its ninjas into obedient servants, only Hydra has the ability to completely brainwash its subordinates. After all the brainwashing props were removed, the Vulture and Scorpion, who were physically and mentally weak, turned their attention to Roger. Inject them with adrenaline. I have something to say to them. With the injection of adrenaline, the Vulture and Scorpion, who were still confused just now, woke up instantly. I won't waste any more time talking nonsense. I'll just ask you one more time. Are you willing to join the hand? Don't try to fool me with words. I can tell whether you are sincere or not. As he spoke, Roger took off his antique Patek Philippe watch and placed it on the metal table next to him. Vulture and Scorpion looked at each other and then chose not to speak. Roger took off his suit jacket and handed it to Jai. He rolled up his shirt sleeves and said, "It's okay if you don't speak. I hope you will have the same determination next time." Under the gaze of Vulture and Scorpion, he took out the small box under the metal table and opened it in front of Scorpion and Vulture. What was placed in the box was not a weapon, but a set of various small tools like surgical instruments. Of course, there were indeed knives such as scalpels in it. After selecting a scalpel that he liked, Roger observed the blade of the scalpel and then walked to Vulture and Scorpion step by step. By the way, do you know why I like dark clothes? Just like before, Vulture and Scorpion remained silent. Because dark clothes, even if they are stained with blood, it is not easy to be seen. It is more convenient when you are chopping people or doing some bloody work. Although Roger took off his crimson suit jacket, his shirt was black, and it was not easy to be seen if it was stained with blood. He was not threatening Vulture and Scorpion, but just stating a fact. I didn't intend to use this plan on you, because I didn't know if you could still remain intact after using this plan. But to reward your tenacious will, I plan to experiment on you. I have only taken theoretical classes, but have never practiced pain torture. As soon as the voice fell, Roger stabbed the Vulture's chest with the scalpel in his hand. He stabbed not the fatal vital point, but a non-vital area that is said to cause severe pain. Ah! As soon as the scalpel stabbed into the Vulture's chest, the Vulture screamed loudly. Oh, I forgot to tell you that there are 2 different ways to use pain to force the target to surrender. One is to give the target the most unbearable pain without endangering the target's life safety. This method usually requires the use of some controlled drugs to make you more sensitive to pain. But the conditions here are limited, so I'll skip this step. As for the second method, I won't say it, just feel it carefully. After saying that, Roger released his right hand holding the scalpel and picked up the small electric saw next to the table. Buzz. The electric saw started, and the low and rhythmic sound of the electric saw suddenly rang in the room. Don't worry, I have prepared a professional treatment team outside, and there is a hospital not far from here. If my men can't handle it, they will also help you call the emergency number. Then, let's get started. Chapter 70 Observation Hacky. Roger returned to the Vulture with the chainsaw. Unlike Scorpion McGargan, who was originally a private detective, Vulture Adrian Toombs was just a famous electronic engineer. So in terms of willpower, he is more fragile than Scorpion McGargan. This is one of the reasons why Roger planned to start with him. Pick the softest persimmon. Vulture is that soft persimmon. However, Roger would never have thought that the soft persimmon of Vulture is softer than he thought. Before the chainsaw in his hand touched the body of the Vulture struggled frantically, trying to break free from the restraints on his body and stay away from him who looked like a perverted murderer. After finding that he couldn't break free, the Vulture showed a fragile look that he had never shown before and almost cried out loudly, "Don't come over, don't come over." Roger didn't take the Vulture's shouting to heart. At the moment, when the rapidly rotating chainsaw was about to touch the Vulture's body, after feeling the airflow from the saw blade, the Vulture psychological defense line completely collapsed. "I'm willing to join the hand, I really am." Roger paused as he looked at Vulture, whose face was covered in cold sweat. Just after Vulture said he was willing to join the hand, he opened the system page that only he could see and took a look. Task progress. 1/2. Although the system did not clearly state it, it was not difficult to guess that the person who passed the system's judgment was Vulture, not Scorpion. After closing the system page, Roger did not speak, but silently pulled out the scalpel stuck in Vulture's chest. Then, he walked towards Scorpion next to him. Compared with Vulture, whose psychological defense line had collapsed, Scorpion McGargan was much calmer now. It was just unknown whether his calmness was real or fake. Facts proved that Scorpion McGargan's will was indeed more resilient. Unlike Vulture, who had already collapsed before the chainsaw touched his body, Scorpion McGargan was very tough and survived the first few minutes. However, in front of the chainsaw maniac Roger, his persistence was ultimately meaningless. Finally, he got what he wanted and heard the words "I do" from Scorpion McGargan. After opening the system page to confirm, he turned off the chainsaw in his hand, took the wet towel from Jai and began to wipe the blood on his hands and face. Then, he took back his suit jacket from Jai. "Kill them." After putting on his jacket, he said something that Vulture and the others had never expected in an extremely calm tone. Not only did Vulture and the others not expect it, but even Jai and others did not expect it at all. Although Jai and others did not know why Roger wanted to kill Vulture and the others after they expressed their surrender, since it was the master's order, they would not hesitate at all. Vulture and Scorpion did not even have the chance to curse Roger, and their lives were completely ended by Jai and others. Clean up this place and find a few people to test the 2 sets of combat uniforms. After saying that, Roger opened the space door and left the room shrouded in the smell of blood. After returning to his home in Manhattan, Roger did not look at his mission reward for the time being and went directly to the bathroom. Half an hour later, after confirming that there was no blood or blood smell on his body, he left the bathroom wrapped in a bath towel and returned to the bedroom. Although the system gave the task of defeating and subduing the Vultures, it did not mean that he would definitely make the Vultures his subordinates. To become his subordinates, willingness to surrender is only the most basic condition. Although the Vultures and Scorpions were willing to surrender to him, and they had been recognized by the system, he was not very interested in such people who surrendered because of fear. What's more, the Vultures and Scorpions were just ordinary people. Their power came from the combat uniforms on their bodies. As long as the combat uniforms were still there, new Vultures and Scorpions could be born at any time. Why must they choose people who chose to surrender because of fear? People's hearts are fickle, especially those who surrender because of fear. He didn't trust such people around him. After changing into pajamas, he lay on the bed and began to check his gains. After Scorpion McGargan also chose to surrender, the system sent down the task reward. Hacky, Armament Hacky LV1, Observation Hacky LV1, Berry. 27 million. After browsing the information of observation haki given by the system, he opened them all. The products in the mall were still not updated, and they were still the same 5 as before. The second generation of Kitetsu, the elephant fruit, and the 6 style iron block were first excluded by him. He couldn't use the second generation of Kitetsu, and he couldn't afford the elephant fruit. As for the iron block in the 6 style, he now had the armament haki, and he had no desire to buy it. After looking back and forth between Shave and Moonstep for more than 10 seconds, he made the final decision to buy. Move, 6 style Shave, 10 million Barry. Buy it? Without hesitation, Roger chose to buy it directly. In an instant, his berry amount dropped from 27 million to 17 million. At the same time, the 6th style Shave was added to his battle move column. 6th style, stomp the ground dozens of times in a flash, using the explosive reaction force, to move at high speed. Unlike moves that need to be practiced by oneself to be recognized by the system, moves purchased from the mall can be mastered without practice. The system will actively integrate it into instinct, allowing him to perform it at will. Of course, if he wants to develop more ways to use it, or further increase its power, he can only work hard on his own. In layman's terms, the system can make a person who can't drive become a driver in an instant. But if you want to drive at the level of a professional driver, you can only practice hard on your own. After closing the system page, Roger took a deep breath, and then used the observation haki he had just obtained. The moment he used the observation haki, his 5 senses were instantly enhanced, and the world he felt instantly became different. He saw more things, heard more sounds, and sensed more things. Although he was on the top floor of the building at this time, he could clearly feel the position of the security guard downstairs, the position of everyone in the entire building, and any little sound made. This strange way of perception seemed to open the door to a new world, allowing him to see a completely different world. Just as he was curiously perceiving this completely different new world, he heard a panting sound that was not suitable for children coming from a room more than 10 floors away from him. Don't. This sound unconsciously shifted his attention to it, and then he perceived more information. TSK. This posture, there is something. Chapter 71 Sandman. After watching for more than 10 seconds with a learning mentality, he ended the display of observation haki. Late at night, as a single man, watching too much of this kind of scene can easily affect sleep. The next morning, after getting up, he first turned on his mobile phone to log into his overseas bank account and looked at the deposit balance on it. Norman Osborn was very trustworthy and did not play any tricks on him. He transferred the promised $300 million. Looking at the string of numbers on the account that were similar to the phone number, he showed a satisfied smile. Although he is not particularly rich now, he will no longer have to worry about money for a long time. A man is a hero and money is courage, and a penny can suffocate a hero. Only with money can you do what you want. For some reason, when controlling the puppet to serve him to wash and dress, Roger suddenly felt that the puppet that he had been using very smoothly suddenly became less pleasing to the eye. Although he can now perfectly control the puppet with parasitic lines, the puppet is not a real living thing after all. Otherwise, hire a few maids. Now, he could hire a few maids, not to mention a few. Even if he hired a dozen maids, there would be no problem. After imagining those young girls wearing black and white maid outfits with twin ponytails, golden curly hair, and long black straight hair, he finally gave up the idea. It is not time to enjoy the decadent capitalist life yet. As a man with great ambitions, he should not disperse his energy on these beautiful skeletons. Jai, help me recruit a few personal assistants in the name of the company. Female, alive, good looking and with a good figure. Absolutely no dark skin. After saying that, he hung up the phone. He is the president of Shaoco Limited, and it is normal to recruit a few assistants. And always staying with big men like Jai is not good for his mental health. After giving Jai instructions, he came to the renovated training room and started the daily dragon bone strengthening. After each dragon bone strengthening, he could feel the changes in his body. It must be said that this feeling of taking drugs to strengthen one's own physique is indeed quite addictive. When the dragon bone turned into powder and completely dissipated in his palm, he moved his limbs. Shave. In an instant, his figure disappeared and came to the other side of the training room. After feeling the feeling of performing the shave, he performed it several times in a row. Exactly as described by the system, shaving is a physical technique that uses the explosive reaction force generated by stomping on the ground dozens of times in a row at high speed to move at high speed. The role of this high-speed movement physical technique that breaks the limit of the naked eye in combat is self-evident. But shaving also has disadvantages, that is, it cannot move at high speed over long distances. In fact, it is not impossible, but using shaving to run long distances is not very cost effective, and the consumption of physical strength will also increase significantly with the increase of distance. In short, shaving is only suitable for fighting in medium and short distances. After finishing today's daily training, he took the elevator to the underground garage and took a car to the company that had just changed its address. The headquarters building of the Hand is still under the control of SHIELD, and he is not interested in working in a building where so many people have died. So he waved his hand and asked Jai to help the company find a new address. However, because the outer members of the Hand have not been released by SHIELD and the police, there are only employees disguised as A1 and others in the new company. On the way to the company, he closed his eyes and thought about the next plan. In general, his current progress is quite smooth. The double fruit and double domineering are enough for him to deal with ordinary enemies. As long as he does not encounter those hidden bosses and wall-hanging beings, he basically does not need to worry about his life safety. At this stage, if he plans to live his life as a small rich man, there will be no problem at all. But he has never considered this aspect. He does not know what other travelers will choose, but he will definitely not choose to live a dull life. Just when he was about to arrive at the company, there was an unexpected traffic jam and a panicked crowd on the road ahead. Looking at those pedestrians who were shouting and fleeing frantically, he silently activated the observation haki that he had just obtained last night. This is, in the street ahead, he sensed two auras that were completely different from normal humans. You stay here, I'll go check it out. After saying that, he, who was wearing a business suit, pushed open the car door and walked down. After walking dozens of meters against the crowd, he saw the two non-humans. One of them was Spider-Man, whom he had met once before in the sewer. The other was a middle-aged man wearing a green striped shirt. Judging from his appearance, there was nothing noteworthy about this middle-aged man. However, when he was fighting with Spider-Man, he showed a side that was completely not human. Sand? This man is controlling sand. No, not just controlling sand. This man himself is sand. Sandman William Beck. Roger's mind quickly emerged with the man's name and related information. William Beck was originally just a street gangster. While escaping from prison to escape the police, he accidentally fell into a particle accelerator. The radiation changed his life form, giving him the ability to control sand and transform into sand. In a certain universe, Sandman William Beck was the murderer who killed Spider-Man's uncle Ben Parker. As for whether the Sandman in this world killed Ben Parker's murderer, Roger is not sure for the time being. This world is different from any Marvel world he knows, so even if there are some differences, it is normal. After observing the battle between Spider-Man and Sandman, Roger took off his coat, rolled up his sleeves, and walked towards Sandman. After possessing armament haki, he has been thinking about a question. That is, can his armament haki deal with those enemies without entities, like dealing with natural fruit ability users? And Sandman is a good test target. In addition, dealing with Sandman will also help him improve the whitewashing of the Hand. Although he does not intend to be a superhero, he does not intend to hide behind the scenes forever. Unlike the people of the flower planting country, the people of America have a serious admiration for the strong. So in this country, humility and kindness are useless, and a big fist is the best way to get recognition. After rolling up his sleeves and taking off his watch, Roger disappeared without hesitation. Shave. In just a blink of an eye, he rushed in front of Spider-Man and Sandman and waved his right hand forward casually. 5-color line. Chapter 70 to Spider-Man's mercy. 5 thin lines of different colors attacked the Sandman William Baker like sharp blades. Not only was the Sandman William Baker within the attack range of the 5 color lines, but even Spider-Man was also within the attack range of the 5 color lines. Roger did not deliberately control the 5 color lines to avoid Spider-Man's position. With Spider-Man's spider sense and sensitivity, there was no problem in dodging the 5 color lines. The 5 color lines hit the body of the Sandman William Baker without any suspense and passed straight through his body. Although the Sandman William Baker's life form was changed by radiation, his fighting level remained at the level of a street thug. If his body could not be turned into sand at any time, he would not have been able to fight with Spider-Man for so long. Roger was not surprised that the 5 color lines failed to injure the Sandman William Baker. The reason why he used the 5 color lines at the first move was, first, to personally feel the Sandman's sand body, and second, to show his identity to Spider-Man. When he first met Spider-Man, he used the 5 color lines once. Although the 5 color line at that time did not have any color, with Spider-Man's ability, it was not difficult to recognize that this was the same move. As he expected, Spider-Man recognized his identity the moment he used the 5 color line. The stronger spider sense warning and the same move were enough for him to recognize Roger. When Roger just appeared, Sandman William Baker was slightly shocked. However, after seeing that the 5 color line could not hurt him, he was completely relieved. Just as he was about to say something, Roger's left hand finger suddenly hooked. Swish. A nearly transparent thin line appeared out of thin air in front of Sandman William Baker and cut off his entire head. The head thrown high did not shed any blood. Under the gaze of Roger and Spider-Man, it quickly turned into a ball of flying sand and flew back to William Baker. It's useless. Your attack can't hurt me. In just a blink of an eye, Sandman William Baker's head grew back and said disdainfully. Roger and Spider-Man ignored his ridicule and continued to attack him. Perhaps because he was fearless, Sandman William Baker had no intention of leaving and continued to fight with Roger and Spider-Man. Although it was the first time Roger and Spider-Man joined forces, they showed amazing tacit understanding. Spider-Man has spider sense and super flexibility, while Roger also has observation haki and good fighting skills. Even if they don't communicate, they can still cooperate tacitly. At this time, Roger did not immediately use armament haki. He was waiting for the arrival of those fearless reporters. In order to publicize his righteous act against superpower criminals, these reporters are an indispensable part. After joining forces with Spider-Man to attack Sandman for several minutes, he finally waited for those journalists. After confirming that he had left enough heroic scenes in the cameras of these reporters, he did not hesitate and used armament haki. Armament haki hardening. In an instant, his arms turned into a metallic purple-black color. The changes in Roger's arms instantly attracted the attention of Spider-Man and Sandman William Baker. Although they didn't know what this meant, they noticed something wrong at the same time. Roger ignored the gazes of Spider-Man and William Beck, the Sandman, and disappeared in front of them in an instant. Shave. Roger, who was originally in front of William Beck, the Sandman, disappeared like a ghost. The next moment, he appeared behind the Sandman with his arms as hard as metal. Before the Sandman could react, Roger's right fist hit his back like a cannonball. Bang! The sand-turned body that William Beck, the Sandman, was so proud of, seemed to have lost its effect at this moment. Under Roger's attack, he was knocked out and hit the car on the side of the road heavily. What happened? William Beck, the Sandman, who was knocked out, showed an incredible look. This was the first time he encountered such a situation, after he had the ability to turn into sand. In his opinion, his sand-turned body was not afraid of any attack. Not to mention just fists, even bullets and cannonballs. He didn't take them seriously. But now, he found that his sand-turned body, which he was so proud of, was not as powerful as he imagined. More importantly, after being hit by Roger, he felt a long-lost sense of danger. No, I want to leave here. The sudden accident made William Baker, the Sandman, want to leave here immediately. However, at the moment, when he stood up again, Roger appeared in front of him again. The purple-black fist hit him hard on the head and knocked him to the ground. It's too late to leave now. Why didn't he use the armament haki at the beginning, just to prevent William Baker, the Sandman, from leaving before the reporters arrived? This time, Roger did not give William Baker, the Sandman, a chance to stand up again. His fists, after the armament haki hardened, kept hitting him. Bang, bang, bang. The dull sound of beatings like war drums kept ringing. Although the person who was being beaten by Roger now was William Baker, Spider-Man and the reporters nearby could hear the terrifying power of Roger's fists from these dull beatings. Just when he was about to knock William Baker, the Sandman, unconscious, a resilient spider silk hit his right fist and pulled his right hand. That's enough. If you keep hitting him, he'll die. Spider-Man's voice came from behind Roger. Although his right hand was blocked by the spider silk, his left hand still firmly grasped the neck of William Baker, not giving William Baker the chance to turn into sand. After hearing Spider-Man's voice, he loosened his left hand and slowly stood up. Although on the surface, William Baker was beaten badly by him, his observation haki told him that William Baker was not in danger of death at all. Sure enough, when he stood up and looked back at Spider-Man, William Baker, who had just looked like he was dying, exploded like a bomb. Bang! Yellow sand flew all over the sky. The air wave caused by the explosion had not completely dissipated, and the sand flew away like a whirlwind and quickly disappeared between the tall buildings. When William Baker, the Sandman, turned into sand and flew away, Roger still had a chance to stop him. But he didn't do it. He had confirmed that the armed haki could cause damage to the existence of people with natural fruit abilities like Sandman. Moreover, the play he was going to play has already been played. The president of Shukol Limited disregards his own safety and joins hands with Spider-Man to fight against superpowered criminals. Spider-Man let superpowered criminals go because of his personal preference. He can even imagine what the headlines of tomorrow's news will be. P.S. Thank you for the tip from Huan Camouflage. Thank you for your support after the picture this morning. The apprentice found that if I want you to post more chapters, I still need to add some colorful content. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 73, a difficult team to lead. When William Baker, the Sandman, escaped by self-destruction, Roger removed his armament haki and pulled off the spider silk on his right hand. He glanced at the reporters in the distance and smiled harmlessly. Then, he came to Spider-Man, whose expression could not be seen, and shook hands with him. It's a pleasure to work with you. I look forward to the next opportunity to join hands with you to fight criminals. Roger's voice was not loud, but he was sure that the reporters in the distance could hear his words clearly. After that, he waved to the reporters, took back his suit jacket that he had left in the car in the distance with a calm face, and then returned to his car. Sir, are we still going to the company? The hand ninja in charge of driving turned his head slightly and asked respectfully. Although Roger liked the feeling of these hand ninjas calling him young master, in order to avoid causing some unnecessary trouble, he gave these ninjas a new order. When pretending to be a company employee, don't call him young master, call him mister of course. Let's drive. Roger patted the sand on his hair and body and said casually. Although the appearance of Sandman William Baker was beyond his expectations, it was not a bad thing. By attacking the Sandman, he showed his strength a little bit and improved his reputation. More importantly, he confirmed that armament haki can deal with special beings like Sandman just like dealing with natural fruit ability users. On the way, except for the traffic jam that never changed, there were no accidents. When he entered the new company, he saw Jai and others in suits and leather shoes. He rented 3 floors in this high-end office building and used it as the new office address of Handco Limited. In order to make the new company look more decent, he also asked most of the hand ninjas to disguise as company employees and let them come to get off work on time every day. Although these hand ninjas are disguised well, just look at their current actions and you will know that they are not normal employees. Have you ever seen employees of a serious company study fighting and killing skills during work? If Roger hadn't prohibited them from carrying weapons that were too conspicuous, such as samurai swords, these hand ninjas disguised as company employees would not have been sparring with each other with signature pens, but would have practiced with real swords and guns. Of course, in order to avoid the embarrassing situation of being suddenly attacked by the enemy without a weapon, a large number of cold weapons, including samurai swords, were placed in the office material storage rooms on the 3 floors. Although there is also the risk of being investigated by the relevant departments, it is better than setting up an arsenal in the office. As a multinational company that mainly imports and exports small Japanese commodities, it is reasonable to have some samurai swords from Japan in the office area. This is just like a car mechanic carrying a wrench to play football, which is a very reasonable thing. How is the recruitment going? Roger asked Jai in the president's office. The recruitment work he mentioned was not the recruitment of personal assistants that he had ordered in the morning, but the recruitment of real employees. It is unknown how long the lawsuit of S.H.I.E.L.D. will last. As long as the lawsuit is not over, S.H.I.E.L.D. is unlikely to return those peripheral personnel to the Hand. But the legitimate business of the Hand cannot be stopped. Even if it is just to show off to the outside world, Roger has to maintain this legitimate business. We are still recruiting. Some applicants will come for interviews today. Do you need to interview them in person? No, you are responsible for this. Recruit the front desk and other administrative staff as soon as possible. Also, remove the 2 burly male receptionists now. Don't let them scare away the interviewees. Also, don't let those guys study killing techniques and torture techniques in the office area. If they really have nothing to do, let them go to websites like B Station and P Station. We are a legitimate company now. Don't do something frivolous. When Jai left the office, Roger sighed helplessly. Although Jai has some talent in management, it is still too difficult for him to handle some of the company's legitimate business. It's not easy to lead a team. Especially when you have to lead a team like the Hand, that usually only knows how to kill people. A morning passed quickly. After reading all the information about the Japanese branch prepared by Jai, Roger turned on the computer and searched for today's news. As expected, the news about him and Spider-Man teaming up to fight against Sandman has come out. After browsing the comments related to the news, he closed the page with satisfaction. Just as he guessed, most ordinary netizens approved of his actions against Sandman. He even saw many people analyzing the moves he used in the battle like experts. In particular, the scene where his arms instantly turned purple and black attracted a lot of discussion. Among these comments, he saw a very interesting analysis post. The poster confidently stated that the reason why Roger's arms turned into metal was because he was wearing a nano high-tech battlesuit. To prove this point, the poster also listed a lot of nanotechnology research materials whose authenticity was unknown. What surprised him even more was that many people agreed with the poster's point of view and said that they had seen similar situations on other occasions. Good idea. After finishing lunch for 10 people today at the company, he planned to go to Dr. Kana's laboratory to tell him that the Osborn group was no longer pursuing him and to see the progress of Dr. Kana's experiment. Just as he was about to leave the office, a red figure appeared outside the huge French window from the sky. Spider-Man, what is he doing here? Roger frowned slightly as he looked at Spider-Man hanging upside down outside the window. Before he could reach the window, Spider-Man pointed to the rooftop. Spider-Man, whom Roger had just met in the morning, suddenly came to his door. Although Roger didn't know what he wanted to do, he didn't mind chatting with Spider-Man. Rooftop. Do you have something to do with me? Roger asked first. Did you catch the lizard man? Spider-Man Peter Parker glanced at Roger and asked in a disguised voice. No, I didn't catch him. Although Dr. Connors was in the laboratory he arranged, he did not catch Dr. Connors. He disappeared recently, and I thought you caught him. Spider-Man spoke again. Roger thought Spider-Man already knew something, but he didn't expect that he knew nothing. This is the limitation of a lone hero with no money and no power. The intelligence is not just a little behind. P.S. I will be on the 6th channel recommendation on the homepage this afternoon. If I can continue to advance, I will be able to go to Sanjiang for recommendation. As long as I can go to Sanjiang, it basically means that I can complete the entire recommendation process. If possible, I hope everyone can read the latest chapter every day. Although 6,000 words a day is not a lot, it can take 5 or 6 minutes to read. As for recommendation tickets and monthly tickets, if you have extra ones, you can also vote. Whether the apprentice can go to Sanjiang and complete the entire recommendation process depends on everyone. Finally, let me say the most important thing. Don't support the book. Don't support the book. Don't support the book. Important things must be repeated 3 times. Chapter 74, Declaration of War. Why did Roger build his own power and work hard to make money? It was to avoid living like Spider-Man. Although he was not the Wayne next door, he also hoped that he could have the superpower called Super Rich. You came here just to ask me this? Looking at the Spider-Man in front of him who didn't seem to be very talkative, Roger took the initiative to ask. This is only one reason. More importantly, I want to know how you hit the Sandman. Sandman was the title that the news media had just given to William Beck. Obviously, Spider-Man also looked at the reports on the internet before coming to him. I can't explain this to you. You can think of this as my special ability, just like you can climb on the wall. Roger didn't plan to explain the armed color domineering to Spider-Man. He and Spider-Man were not familiar with each other to this extent. I see. After saying that, Spider-Man shot a spider silk towards the building opposite and left the roof of the building with the spider silk. Queens, one of the secret safe houses of the Hand. This was originally a safe house used by the Hand Ninja to hide. But now, this place has been transformed into Dr. Connors' laboratory. When Spider-Man left, Roger came here alone through the space gate and told Dr. Connors about the deal between himself and the Osborn group. Although Norman Osborn did not promise anything, after getting the formula of the lizard gene potion, he is unlikely to continue to send people to capture Dr. Connors. Thank you. After listening to Roger's story, Dr. Connors silently thanked Roger. You're welcome. I should be the one to say thank you. If it weren't for the formula you provided, I wouldn't have earned this unexpected income. Although it cost him some money to help Dr. Connors build a laboratory, compared with the $300 million provided by Norman Osborn, he didn't pay much. Dr. Connors robbed most of the important equipment from other biological laboratories. He only provided a relatively safe location and some equipment that was not very expensive. In the New York branch of SHIELD, in the office of Barbara the Mockingbird, Roger is hiring a personal assistant. The bureau is planning to send you there. Are you willing? Barbara said to agent number 13 Sharon Carter, who was wearing a gray uniform. No problem for me. Sharon Carter, who had light golden curly hair, said directly without any hesitation. Roger is not an ordinary target, and the role you have to play is his personal assistant. Can you really do it? If you don't want to go, it's okay. I can arrange someone else to do this task. Others may not know Sharon Carter's background, but Barbara, as Nick Fury's right-hand man, knows it clearly. Sharon Carter is the niece of Peggy Carter, one of the founders of SHIELD. Her codename Agent Number 13 is the agent codename that Peggy Carter used before. If it weren't for the fact that Black Widow Natasha had already shown her face in front of Roger, the most suitable person to carry out this mission now would definitely be Natasha. Don't worry, I can do it. As a professional agent, Sharon Carter certainly knows what it means to be a personal assistant to a target. She knew the possible risks of this mission, but she still had no intention of rejecting it. Well, in that case, I'll leave this mission to you. Don't force yourself. If you encounter danger, protect your own life first. After a few seconds of silence, Barbara finally decided to hand the mission over to Sharon Carter. Although Sharon Carter is Peggy Carter's niece, she is also an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. At this time, personal feelings need to give way to the mission. At this time, Roger didn't know what happened in the New York branch of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now he is discussing with Dr. Connors whether it is possible to derive a strengthening serum with less obvious sequelae from the formula of the lizard gene drug. When he asked Jai to publicly recruit company employees and personal assistants, he was already prepared for S.H.I.E.L.D. to send agents. Given his current relationship with S.H.I.E.L.D., if S.H.I.E.L.D. did nothing, it would be too unworthy of their duties. But even so, he still asked Jai to publicly recruit people. He didn't have a good impression of S.H.I.E.L.D., but he had to admit that there were indeed many talented people in S.H.I.E.L.D. And now, he just needed some professionals to help him deal with the legal affairs of the company. As for whether the spies planted by S.H.I.E.L.D. would find out anything, he was not worried at all. he would only let these recruits deal with those legal affairs that could be seen by the public. If S.H.I.E.L.D. was interested in investigating these legal affairs, let them investigate. Roger spent the whole afternoon in the laboratory discussing the human enhancement serum with Dr. Connors. Norman Osborn didn't mind the sequelae of the lizard gene drug, but Roger did. After knowing that the Osborn group was interested in the military's super soldier project orders, he also became interested in these military super soldier projects. Although Kingpin was a very capable ally, he didn't intend to hang himself on Kingpin's tree. He wanted to build a network of people other than Kingpin, and the military was a good target. More importantly, the military, like him, didn't have a good impression of S.H.I.E.L.D. In fact, it is not just the military that dislikes S.H.I.E.L.D. CIA, FBI and other institutions also dislike S.H.I.E.L.D. The reason is simple. Some of S.H.I.E.L.D's authority overlaps with this. At night, after deciding with Dr. Connors on the subsequent development of the enhanced serum, just when he was about to open the space gate to return to the building, his cell phone suddenly rang. "Sir, the people of the Holy Society just shot a letter of challenge." The person who called was none other than Jai Yi. Shot a letter of challenge? When he first heard this, Roger almost didn't react. "I'll be back soon." After hanging up the phone, he opened the space gate in front of Dr. Connors and disappeared in the laboratory. After several transfers, he returned to the company. "Sir, this is a letter of challenge just shot by the Holy Society. It's called a letter of challenge, but Jai Yi handed it over with an arrow." Roger didn't take the arrow, but took a quick look at the letter of challenge. It turns out that the leader is back. No wonder he is so arrogant. Chapter 75 Predicting Attacks. After reading the letter of challenge in his hand, Roger smiled disdainfully. What era is it, and they still use the letter of challenge? However, this practice is also in line with the traditional organization of the Holy Society. And there is one thing Roger must admit, that is, the timing of the letter of challenge from the Holy Society is very clever. The hand is whitewashing step by step in his plan. At this time, the hand is not suitable for doing something too bloody and violent. After thinking for a few seconds, he gave a few instructions to Jai Yi and others. Then, Jai Yi and others in suits and leather shoes left the building. The time for the Holy Society to meet is tonight, and the location is also very coincidental, which happens to be Hell's Kitchen. Roger threatened Daredevil and others in Hell's Kitchen last time. This time, the Holy Society also chose Hell's Kitchen as the place for the battle. More than an hour later, Roger and others' convoy arrived at the agreed location. He did not bring many people with him, including himself. There were less than 10 people in total. This is an abandoned construction site. It is a long distance away from the surrounding main roads. In a place like this, especially at night, even if you throw a few grenades here, no one will come to check for a while. Perhaps this is the main reason why the Holy Society chose this abandoned construction site. When the car stopped, Jai, who was sitting in the passenger seat, got out first. Then, he opened the door next to Roger. Not long after he got out of the car, one after another Holy Society ninjas wearing ninja clothes walked out from the dark corners of the construction site. Not long after, these Holy Society ninjas surrounded them. Among these Holy Society ninjas, Roger saw Daredevil, who he had met once, and the leader of the Holy Society, the old man with a light green outfit and a hat of the same color. "It seems that you didn't take my last words to heart." Roger ignored the old man with a stick and said directly to Daredevil. Before Daredevil could speak, the old man with a stick in front of him walked straight towards Roger and pointed at him with the long stick in his hand. "Are you the new leader of the Hand? Has no one told you that it is very impolite to point at others with a stick when talking?" Although there were far fewer people on his side than the Holy Society, Roger did not take the Holy Society and the old man with a stick seriously. The old man with a stick had good fighting ability and was a top-notch blind fighting master in the world. The Holy Society was also strong and was an elite ninja organization that could compete with the Hand in its prime. But in Roger's opinion, the old man with a stick and the Holy Society could only bully ordinary people. Anyone with a little strength was not someone that the old man with a stick and the Holy Society could offend. Politeness? You guys are not worthy of saying this word. As soon as the words fell, the old man with a stick in his hand attacked Roger directly. The old man's attack was very fast, but in front of Roger, who had already activated his observation haki, his attack was meaningless. Roger casually raised his right hand and grabbed the long stick that was attacking him. "Old man, you are a bit unethical." Roger had just finished speaking when the people behind him took out the Uzi submachine guns from their coats. If the Holy Society ninjas with normal vision had already felt something was wrong when Roger brought the people in suits over, then now, the wrongness in their hearts has become a reality. The hand, which is famous in the underground world for its crazy ninjas, actually took out the Uzi submachine gun that is completely inconsistent with their image. Are these still the hand ninjas who slashed people crazily with samurai swords? Although the old man and Daredevil could not see it, they also knew that this was a completely unreasonable scene with the prompts of the Holy Society ninjas around them. Of course, this was just unreasonable in the eyes of the Holy Society ninjas. In Roger's view, this was a very normal scene. Now is the era of gunpowder weapons, and the use of firearms is the mainstream of this era. You know, I was going to let you go. As long as you follow my instructions and take a year off, nothing will happen. But now, you can only die here. Although the person standing in front of him was the old man with a stick, Roger still ignored him and said to Daredevil. Roger's repeated ignoring of him made the arrogant old man with a nameless anger. What's more, his current weapon was firmly grasped by Roger. The old man with a stick did not try to pull back the long stick, but he obviously underestimated Roger's strength. The strengthening of the dragon bone and the transformation of his pirate body that he had experienced originally made Roger's physical fitness completely exceed the limit of human beings. Although the old man with a stick's fighting level is good, his body is still that of an ordinary human. Skills cannot make up for the difference in the nature of the body. You are looking for death. The murderous voice of the old man with a stick rang out. Without waiting for Roger to reply, the stick old man attacked again. When the stick old man attacked him, a large number of white threads emerged from Roger's body. Under his control, these white threads seemed to have life and blocked the stick old man's attack. At the same time, white threads flew into the sky. Then, they fell like raindrops. These threads that fell from the sky did not attack any of the Holy Society ninjas, but constructed a cage made of threads. From the appearance, the move that Roger is performing now looks very similar to Doflamingo's birdcage. But in fact, this is not a birdcage. The current level of the thread fruit is not enough for him to perform a birdcage. However, this does not prevent him from imitating a birdcage. And he does not need to imitate the birdcage with amazing defense, and can continuously narrow the range. He only needs to use this birdcage-like cage to trap everyone including the stick old man. The cage composed of threads quickly took shape, and all the people of the Holy Society were trapped in the cage. After doing all this, Roger released the silk thread that seemed to be resisting the stick old man's attack on his own, and loosened his right hand that was holding the long stick. The moment he let go of the long stick, the stick old man took it back without any hesitation, and launched a violent attack on Roger. Facing the stick old man's superb long stick attack, Roger did not resist or fight back. He seemed to have predicted the stick old man's attack and calmly avoided all the stick old man's attacks. How is this possible? The Holy Society ninjas who saw this scene showed disbelief. They were familiar with the strength of the stick old man. But now, the extremely powerful stick old man in their hearts was like a sparring partner, launching meaningless attacks. Although Roger's current level of observation haki is not high, it is no problem to predict the stick old man's attack. Avoiding attacks and predicting attacks are both basic operations of observation haki. Although the old man's fighting ability is good, it is a pity that he met Roger who has the observation haki. PS. Thank you Mingzi book friend 120 *** 464 for the reward. Thank you for your support that. In addition, some chapters are not deleted by the apprentice, but automatically disappeared after the content was modified. There was a place in the previous chapter that was not written very well, so I modified it, which caused the chapter that was commented on to disappear. In order to avoid misunderstandings, I will say it here. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.